Okay, yo, what's up, guys? This is our first episode of a podcast for Hidden Potential. This is featuring Dookie, Hamza, and Toryu, featuring myself,
Yes,
Sonto,
sir.
Jay, Tummy. I've been here and there, I dabble, but this is definitely something new, and I'm excited to talk about it today with you guys. Our goals with this podcast is to discuss current and unexplored topics within Maplestory, as well as revisiting old topics that are still relevant today in GMS. Our perspectives are going to be heavily focused on Reboot because we both play on Reboot, so it's kind of hard to look past that. This is purely just for fun.
Yo,
We wanted to mix in a tone of seriousness as well, just to kind of like reflect our love and passion for the game. I would like to welcome anyone and
I hate
everyone to
this
join
game.
us on this journey. Hope you guys have fun as well with us. We do plan on featuring guests from ranging from like established players in the community as well as viewers, just so we have like a broad range of perspectives from start to finish on every end of the spectrum there is. For introductions, hi again, I'm Jay. I go by other aliases like Tummy or Sonto. My Twitch handle is Stummy, so it's kind of a mixed bag there. I'm a longtime Maplestory fan. I've been playing on and off since the GMS beta. As of now, I consider myself to be an Explorer Thief main, mainly because I like playing Night Lord, I like playing Shadower, I also enjoy playing Dual Blade, and yeah, that's it. That's. I look forward to this journey with you guys.
yep. As for myself, I'm sure most of you guys know who I am. Rank 1, all the classes, besides Nightwalker and Wild Hunter. I don't think I really need to say any more. But yeah. This is like Jay said, this is just, primarily for fun. And I think our topics are topics that you guys would enjoy and you guys could actually interact with, and not just a bunch of garbage, but things that are relevant. And you could walk away from this just give you something to listen to, give you something to think about. Yeah. And this will be on YouTube, so it's not going to be a Twitch stream exclusive podcast or anything like that. It will be on YouTube in case you miss anything. And yeah, you wanna tell us what our topics are today?
Yeah, sure. We got several topics today. Our first topic, we're going to be talking about the KMST Patch. Mainly specifically about the 4-minute classes becoming 2 minutes. After that, the next major topic we're going to be talking about is the 6-month update gap between KMS and GMS. The topic after that, we were going to be talking about guild content and alliance content that exists in the game and what we think there should be more of. And the last topic is going to be about the state of the game after Kishin, the totem meta, as well as 40 channels that have been introduced and since then. So those are our topics today, and we'll be starting off with the 4-minute classes becoming 2 minutes.
Yeah. So another thing is, just to get some groundwork here, the length of the podcast is just however long it is. As we, keep talking, we end whenever. This isn't going to be kind of like a Maplestory help podcast, so if you ask questions, I'm sorry, I'm probably going to ignore you about like Maplestory, like what you should do. It's primarily just going to be focused on the topics. And yeah. So like Jay said, the first topic is the KMST patch, which I'm sure a lot of us are thinking about because it just happened, and big meta shift going to be changing in the game. So
Yep.
So
oh,
I
you
guess
can go
let's
ahead.
talk about what changed. Yeah, I guess we could talk about what changed if anybody here is like completely clueless and doesn't know what changed. Basically, Nexon and KMS test server, not officially live yet as of us talking right now. They decided and have fully acknowledged that classes that have a 4-minute cooldown on their skills is dumb as hell. And they've changed a lot of those 4-minute cooldowns to be 2-minute cooldowns, nerfing the damage, but those skills could be used more often. And they've acknowledged that the game is primarily in a 3-minute burst meta, and they're trying to slowly change that to become not only 3-minute bursts, but 2-minute bursts are valid as well. That was like the main bulk of the. That was like the main point of the KMST balance patch. So what does this mean like going forward, right? You wanna talk about that?
It seems like we have a little bit of an audio issue. I don't know if you noticed that or not.
Really?
The chat's talking about it being off
Alright, hold
sync a
on.
little bit. I don't know.
Hold on, I got you.
Oh, they're saying I'm synced though.
Hello? Oh, that's weird.
Well, it's only your camera. Is it because you're screen sharing to me? Maybe that's why.
Should be good. No, it should be good now. Should be good now.
Okay.
Yeah, I fixed it.
All right. So yeah, what does this mean going forward? It means there was already existing of other party comps, right? The most popular party composition was collectively gathering classes that have cycles of buffs or skills on 3-minute cooldowns. It's just so they can match up with Bishop, which is like the biggest support class in Maplestory. It provides literally everything. It does decent damage, it provides survivability, it provides more damage to your party members. It's a pretty nutty class. So it makes sense that the biggest change to Bishop was the fact that Benediction has a cooldown refunded now. So I believe if you use it for 25 seconds and end it early, it becomes a 2-minute cooldown. And if you just use the full 45 seconds, it's the 180-second cooldown. Essentially what this patch did, it just made it so that more party comps are more flexible. Now 2-minute party classes don't have to worry about, just AFKing or holding on to their buffs for an extra minute just so they can line up with Benediction. And overall, this just means that with these more flexible party comps, some people that had to hold on their cooldowns can now just use their cooldowns whenever, line it up with Benediction. You don't have to. You feel like you can play your class the way it's supposed to be played now. You don't have to worry about syncing up your cooldowns too much because there's more options now for these party comps.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. 3-minute has just been dominant for so long. It's always been 3-minute. The entire game is balanced around this 3-minute timer. Benediction timer, Ozring timer, Canadian buffs. It all syncs up with 3 minutes. And the fact that Nexon is acknowledging that 3 minutes is broken and that 2 minutes is, also valid is pretty insane, because this has been the game for so many years, like 5 years or more, since Reboot's release, pretty much. It's just always been 3-minute bursts. Every party, 3-minute.
Yeah, I think Nexon realized that although they obviously still want to keep this flexibility and diversity thing between 2 minutes and 3 minutes. There's no longer 4-minute classes, I believe now. I think they got switched to either 2 minutes or maybe even 3 minutes. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing is that now there's for lack of a better word, there's less discrimination of who gets recruited now.
Yeah.
Let's just say you already have 4 members that you recruited and they're already all 3 minutes, but one of those classes is a 2-minute class. It's now you're thinking, okay, well, we already have majority 3-minute classes. We have one outlier that's 2 minutes. It just makes sense that the last 2 slots you recruit are going to be 3 minutes as well, because majority of the party's 3 minutes already. But now that there's more options of 2-minute classes and 3-minute classes, there's going to be a nice mixed bag of party comps now. There's going to be less discrimination between players because, you're a strong player, we want you, but you're on that 2-minute timer, and we can't really have that. But this definitely is a good change going forward. It still stays true to what Nexon wants, which is more flexibility and diversity of these burst timers. And overall, the players are going to be happy that they don't have to play on that 4-minute timer or 3-minute timer because they're 2-minute classes now.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. So why even make these changes, right? Let's talk about why. So this doesn't matter that much. Well, it doesn't matter as much, for example, solo bossing or the early game or mid game or whatever. But for a very long time, like you were talking about, Jay, the party comps were designed around 3 minutes. So classes that had 4-minute cooldowns or 2-minute cooldowns, like example Bowmaster or Marksman, they just, no matter the situation, they would always just perform way worse than a 3-minute class every single time. They would always perform worse. Party buffs wouldn't work for them. Canadian Oz rings, everything was just way harder to optimize. The cooldowns are just way too long or way too short. So it makes sense that they would change this. But if you think of like BM solos, right? Like 2-minute classes, 3-minute classes versus 4-minute classes, like the 4-minute classes had it the worst because, for example, let's take Hero as an example, or Arc as an example, right? Arc being a 4-minute class. Arc could solo Black Mage, right? But its Black Mage solo times are way longer than every other class because its window of burst at that 4-minute mark is so high. And the way like Black Mage works is you need to do as much damage as you can when the shield gets taken out. And if you can only do that big damage every 4 minutes rather than every 3 minutes or every 2 minutes, like some other classes, you're just always at a disadvantage. And that's just because your burst is at a 4-minute timer. Now imagine Ozring being forced to be on a 4-minute timer as well. Canadian never syncing up with your burst anyways. Like, all these things just factor into you're just clearing bosses way slower than everybody else.
Yeah, like BM solo is obviously a very extreme example. We all know that. Even just like Saren solos as well, where these burst timers are of course more exaggerated as an issue, but they're still an issue nonetheless. Specifically with Black Mage, because of the shield regen, especially in P4, it happens every 30 seconds, right? So if you're playing Arc and you're not strong enough to break the shield without having to use your burst anyways, what you end up having to do is just not attack. Because if you attack, you're going to be proccing your Canadian, and you don't want your Canadian to be off sync off your 4-minute bursts. You essentially just kind of playing sitting duck until, got my 4-minute burst, now I can make some HP progression because the shield regens every 30 seconds. Now, if for example, if we were to compare it to a class that's 2 minutes, that's soloed, like what would be a very good example where this is not an issue that they have?
You can use Hayato, like my solo personally, 2-minute class, and it's still an extremely fast solo. Because Hayato can break the shield, and it has its burst, well, not burst, but its spike and its damage is increased a lot every 2 minutes. And on the 4th minute, you have a big burst. So 2-minute classes are really, really good. That's the thing. But the classes that are just 4-minute are like so shit, like so bad. So
yeah,
it's honestly huge that they're changing them to be 2 minutes.
Oh yeah, and with these changes from 4 minutes to 2 minutes, those classes now, as you mentioned before, is they're more inclined to have multiple Oz rings now.
Yeah.
The Arc used to just be okay with like, got a Roar 4. You don't have to ring swap. I mean, you can, but you don't have to. Now that they're 2 minutes, they can be using a different Oz ring every time they're bursting. Oz is now much more important for those players, and at the same time, you can look at it as now they have a higher opportunity cost now, because now they have like this option to get a second Oz ring so that they can have bigger bursts every 2 minutes. It's not necessary. You can still do fine with no Oz ring or just one Oz ring. But now you have that option, and it's always good to just have more options.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Like you were saying with the higher opportunity costs, like like Night Lord, all they need is Roar, right? Which is good, like you get your Roar, but at the same time kind of bad because now you can't really use other rings. But whereas a 2-minute class, like sure you have to, suffer in Oz more to get more rings, but the trade-off is, if you do get those rings and use them correctly in bosses, you will do way more damage than a 3-minute class. Yeah. So it's really cool that like these 2-minute classes have that option of it's like you take like the brunt harder of Oz, but the long term, if you set it up properly, it will do more damage.
Yeah, I feel like after the Oz revamp now, Oz, it really isn't that bad. It's definitely got a lot of quality of life change. Like back when we ran Oz, right, on our mains, we didn't have like this option of getting 2x's from rank 1 boxes. Now, some people don't like the fact that you get 2x's, but since they're there, it's an incentive to do something else other than Oz.
Yeah.
Because you have a 2x now. Fine, you did your 5 floors for that day or 5 runs. Now you have 2x's. You can use them whenever. Even like the Oz shop improved a lot. Like outside of like the aesthetics you can buy, there's a shining box now, which gives you a guaranteed rank 3 or level 3 or level 4 ring, and the pool of rings, they're not all useless. They're pretty good. You got your war, your weapon jump. There's also I believe there's also risk taker. There's probably totaling in there. Like a lot of the good rings and very few like bad ones. And of course we are in reboot, but this like Oz change is really really good for reg server players because now they have a much more guaranteed time of getting something useful. And if it's not a ring that they don't need or they already have a copy of it, that's just meso they get for putting it up in the auction house. It still sucks in reboot if you get you have 3 roars. You can't really do anything with them besides make people pretty upset.
True.
But I mean, that's just to prove to you that the odds of getting these rings now are a lot better.
Yep. So, Joe69 mentions in chat, like, KMS nerfs the burst damage for classes that change from 4 minutes to 2 minutes, though. So, yes, they did. Your burst in that small window is smaller than before, the 4-minute burst window. But if you calculate the damage you're doing in a long fight, you're doing way more damage in a longer fight. Now, it's only a nerf, for example, if you're super, super strong and you could one burst a boss. Yeah, it's a nerf because like you're strong enough to one burst it. Example, Night Lord entering like normal gloom, for example, right? The Night Lord currently right now, they'll just one burst it, right? Or Hero is a better example. Hero will just currently one burst it with their 4-minute combo instinct. And Hero, let's say, after the 2-minute change, let's say they might not be able to one burst it with 2-minute combo. They'll do like most of the damage, but they might not be able to one burst it. But in a long drawn out fight, it's way more damage. And in a future proofing sense, it's much better for the class because right now, this is a kind of a like side topic, but right now the game's at a point where most characters at the end game, they're way stronger than the boss's requirement. So it seems like everything is just like, you want to aim for getting one burst, but if you think about it like in the future proofing, no, having spread out damage, more DPS instead of just being able to one burst everything is actually better for your class long term.
Even if we're not looking at it in terms of a min-max point of view, and we're just looking at more of the player experience. Yeah. Let's just say we're in the reboot setting, and you guys have maybe you main Night Lord, or you have a Night Lord bossing. If in a scenario where Night Lord was 4 minutes instead of 3 minutes right now, and then they became 2 minutes, that is a really big change because now you're waiting less time between bosses. Night Lord is really heavily dependent on its burst to clear bosses. So you're waiting every 3 minutes in between for I don't know, like 3-door or 4-door CRA as a Night Lord. Because if you go in there without your spread throw and throw blasting, you're going to be in there for a while. Unless you're really strong. But if you're a bossing mule or you're still starting out, having more rotations of your burst is not only more fun, it's just more practical.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like if you think about, like you mentioned boss moves, if you think about what are the best boss moves in the class, it's classes that just have really high DPS and really short burst cooldowns. Shatterer with Sonic Blow, Bowmaster with their 2-minute burst, Marksman with less than 1 minute cooldown on Split Shot. Like those classes are the best boss moves because their peaks of damage come up so often. You want to think of the worst boss moves, think of Night Lord or Arc. It's just like these super long cooldowns that you need to actually do damage. So having more classes that are like that, Xenon as well. Having more classes that are like that it's just better. Better for the game, better for the players. Like there's no downside to it.
Yep. And obviously, like Dojo isn't something that's always in everyone's sights as something they want to do. But it's very evident that classes like Shadower, Demon Slayer, even Dual Blade, they have a really good time in dojo because of their short cooldowns that hit really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the fact that you can wait at most 10 seconds before going to the next floor. And if your burst timer skill is like on 10-second cooldown, like Dual Blade's FMAs are on 10-second cooldowns basically. Every time you go to the next floor, you have it up right away. If you're a Shadower, you always have Sonic Blow on every single floor because you can cancel it early, and it just becomes a, I think, 20-second cooldown or 12-second cooldown, something like that. If you cancel
Depends
early
on how early you cancel it. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Could
those
be
two
12.
classes, in an extreme like vacuum example of just dojo, there's a reason why they excel really well in dojo, because they have more rotations, because their cooldowns are shorter. They obviously don't hit as hard compared to, you know, the 4-minute classes back then, but because of the way that dojo is set up, it's more skewed towards these classes that have short cooldowns and can burst way more often.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right.
Alright.
Is there?
Oh, you
is there
can
any-
go ahead.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to mention about 4-minute and 2-minute changes?
Not specifically, but I wanted to go into what this means. What could this mean going forward in terms of the content that Nexon
Yeah, I was gonna bring
provide?
that up. Yeah.
So one of my first talking points is, will these changes mean something for how Nexon approaches bosses in the future? Like, are they going to come up with different concepts? Are we going to see more bosses like Will, or Guardian Slime, where if you do the mini game or you do the mechanic correctly, you are rewarded with a DPS window? For example, Will P1, if you're on the correct side and when the screen cracks and his HP bar is both 0 on each side for the first segment, he is like vulnerable for the first 10 seconds, and he's stunned. He's clutching his chest. He is unable to do anything for those first 10 seconds. That's a reward for doing the mechanic correctly. I like seeing that in Maplestory. Another example for Guardian Slime. You have to block the doors, and when the minigame happens, you have to redirect the flow of slimes into the correct door. Now that you've done that, you get a 10-second DPS window, and the slime takes more damage, or true damage during that. Because I think slime has like some kind of damage reduction throughout the fight, and regen. So for that, you're getting rewarded for doing the mechanic correctly. Like, I like seeing that. It's how I would have wished the game's boss direction went towards more of. I personally don't really like the fact that it's really heavily reliant on bind, because that's what everyone is always thinking about. All right, I just gotta survive and make sure I do my burst correctly at the next bind. That's it.
Yeah.
You're not really thinking too much more about, you know, obviously there's still ducking and diving and dodging and do the mechanics, but there's no, the window of opportunity to use your burst is just during bind. But if more bosses adopted the game philosophy of Will and Guardian Slime, where you are rewarded with that DPS window, I think that would make the game more enjoyable. I think people would see that the idea of a bind kind of takes away from the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I agree. I agree that doing some sort of mechanic to get a reward is a good thing in bosses, but I think the way Nexon implements it is really annoying. For example, in Will is very favored in 2-minute timers and DPSing, because let's say you're a Night Lord, you enter Will, you can one burst each side, sure. But the next segment, since your burst is on a 3-minute cooldown and the segment's on like a 2-minute timer, you're not going to do any damage. No matter how hard you try, you pass the test, but that reward that you get doesn't mean anything because you can't use your burst. And the same thing with P2. You enter P2, you burst P2 down, you do the test. That reward you get where Will is clutching his chest and he can't do anything, you can hit him, doesn't mean anything for a 3-minute class because their burst is gone. They can't do anything. And then on the other side, with Slime, you know, it's fun. Like, it's fun and new. Like, you have to do like this test and you get rewarded for it. But the reward window is just too favored in a 15-second burst. Like, it's too much. Like, if the reward window was maybe even 30 seconds, it would be better. Or let's say there's a slime version that it's every 2 minutes instead of 3 minutes. Like, it's too favored. Like, Night Lord dominates in slime over any other class. Nobody comes even close because they're so front-loaded in their damage and their roar that, like, classes like and let's talk about the most extreme example, Hayato in Slime, the worst class in Slime. Hayato, a class where you have to keep hitting the boss to maintain your damage. You lose all of your damage while you're doing the test for Slime. So by the time you do the test, you have no damage, and you're a 4-minute class, so it doesn't even line up. So you have to delay the test even further. Like, stuff like that is just so anti-fun, and it shows that Nexon, like, they're so half thinking. Like, they don't think things 100% through. Like, they'll have a good idea. They'll be like, we should make it that, you know, if you clear a mechanic well, you get a bonus. Good idea, but the way they implement it is so shit, and it's like the most annoying thing ever for both sides, for both 2-minute, 3-minute, and 4-minute classes. Like, they all struggle in one way or another.
Yeah. There's definitely an issue with how they implement the idea. We both like the idea that, you know, get rewarded for doing a mechanic correctly. Here's your DPS window. It is definitely more skewed towards the classes that have bursts that line up with those DPS windows as well. This is just kind of like a byproduct of just Maplestory or just Nexon wanting to have this diversity in burst timers of 2 minutes and 3 minutes. It becomes like this issue where, yeah, there's no 2-minute version of Guardian Slime, and it just kind of sucks because now, when you want to use your burst, it's not going to be during the DPS window. You're going to have to rely on a bind or a Jenny iframe, and if you're using a bind, then sure, you know, you get your 10 seconds there. If you have to rely on Jenny iframe, then the boss is still moving around. It can TP somewhere else. It can disappear. It can start doing an attack pattern where it's not feasible for you to deal damage to it, even though you're iframed. It's definitely like not the perfect solution. The fact that bind exists kind of helps alleviate the fact that these boss mechanics aren't fully thought through yet. The thing that I think is something that Nexon has not really thought about enough is the fact that there's classes that exist that are just pure DPM, like they just have no burst at all, or that their burst is like very, like not that meaningful in the way that as long as they hit that burst, then whatever they do elsewhere, it doesn't matter. So I'm thinking, like, for example, like Bowmaster's burst isn't that crazy. They're a Hurricane class. Same with, like, actually Wild Hunters, I think they're pretty burst heavy as well.
No, they're a burst class, Wild Hunter.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So like Hurricane classes like Bowmaster are just pure DPM. Even Fire Poison, their burst isn't like anything amazing either. They like just pure DPM. But the difference is that Fire Poison before this patch was so overloaded that I'm pretty sure their Guardian Slime times were similar, if not better, than Night Lords. And Night Lord is a class that excels really well in Guardian Slime. So that's like a really like, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like an outlier, yes, an outlier on when a DPM class is just that much better than a burst class. I wish Nexon would probably like focus more on the fact that DPM classes exist, because these new bosses, it really heavily favors just bursts, right? You look at Saren, for example. You have Dawn, and you have all these phase transitions, and it's not feasible for you to have that much high uptime in that fight, where it's just so much easier to do to the boss if you're just all burst classes. You focus on that one window to bind, and then you just AFK afterwards, and you just rinse and repeat.
I mean, not even just Saren. Just think of Gloom. Gloom, you literally have these 20-second windows where you can actually do damage to the boss. Think of Black Mage, the whole shield system, where you have to get rid of the shield to actually do damage. So you get rid of the shield, then you burst, so you can actually do true damage to the boss. There's is there any Lucid, like even as far as back Lucid, like Lucid P3, like you need to burst it down. Like these bosses are just so designed to be bursted. It's just so crazy. It's so like anti-fun to not have any burst. Like think of Wind Archer. Like what do? Nothing.
They do their best.
They do their best.
They do their best.
They do their best. True.
Okay, so that was my talking point. Is there a talking point that you want to present forward?
I mean, that's pretty much it. Like,
Oh, I got more to talk about for this topic. If
for like future content.
yeah, for future content, like just.
I mean, I hope that they implement something that favors like that you could just hit the boss the whole time. Like I feel like that's the most simple solution where you could just hit the boss the whole time. That like that's part of the. For example, if they just get rid of the damage reduction in slime, I feel like that would fix slime because it's like if they get rid of it, sure, like you could actually just burst whenever you want, and it wouldn't be as like burst dependent on the 3-minute window. But there's also the 3-minute window, so that if you do decide to just save your burst for that, then you could also like take advantage of that. Like that's why Will isn't as bad as slime, because Will, he doesn't like have any damage reduction. You could still hit him all the time technically, so it's like not as bad. But I just hope that bosses in the future, they're not so reliant on some sort of like mini game that'll give you like 10 seconds just to hit it, or at least like make it a 30-second window, or like just make it better than what they've been doing.
Yeah, for sure.
Or you get a buff or something instead of a window. Like you just get buffed for like 20 seconds or something.
That would be good too. Honestly, I didn't even know that Guardian Slime had damage reduction.
What?
I didn't even know. I just thought like, man, this boss is always like so slow for me. Is it because like Dual Blade sucks or something?
No.
Because I'm looking at my friends that are all Explorer mages and they're killing that boss in like 7 minutes. I'm over here like 12 minutes or something. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, am I just bad? But that's when I found out that the boss just has damage reduction. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it just straight up has damage reduction. Like that's why it's so
I knew
annoying.
about the health regen.
Yeah, it has damage reduction and it heals. So it's like super tanky. Like the Guardian Slime, like if you really think about like boss clear times in solo, there's like Black Mage is the slowest, and then people are approaching like, you know, sub 20 minutes on Black Mage, so it's pretty fast. And then there's Guardian Slime, and then H-Will, and H-Will is just because it's like minimum 11 minutes no matter what, no matter how hard you try.
Yeah.
But it's like kind of insane that people are like approaching BM solos and Slime solos like around the same time. It's like insanity.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way, but now that you're bringing it up, it's pretty ridiculous that that's just the state of the game.
Yeah.
And like, okay, speaking of which, this brings me to our next talking point that I wanted to talk about for the future of game design, or the glaring issue that I think still exists in Maplestory. I've talked about this before with other people, but you know, we got this platform here now to talk about it. I want to talk about power elixirs and just potions in general. I think it's fine that you have your monster park potions, like you have your potions that give you attack, IAD, boss. Fine, that's all. You know, in other games like WoW or Final Fantasy 14, that's just food. Those are food buffs. They increase the damage you deal. But in those games, I don't really think that potions to heal you are that big in the game like it is in Maplestory. Maplestory, the way that they kind of drew back the power on power elixirs or just potions that heal you is either you're not allowed to use it at all. So, for example, you're in Vihilla. You can't use your potions unless you get the skulls, you clear the altar, and then for like the next 5 seconds, you can use your potion anytime, any amount of time you want. If you have enough moonlight in phase 2, then you can use a potion. Otherwise, you can't use it at all. So there's like these limiting factors to using a potion. On top of the fact that you have life counter as well. I think that just the existence of power elixirs or these potions that heal you to full also take away from the game. But because of these potions' existence, we see less of these classes all around that have like there's like not very many classes that have damage mitigation, or classes that just heal you, or classes that give you health regen. Right? There's only like Bishop that gives you an extra life, it gives you Fountain, it gives you Shell for damage mitigation, and the passive healing from Benny, as well as whenever you cast Angel Ray. Right? So those are like, it's just Bishop that has all the healing in the game. Obviously, there's classes like Battle Mage, where their party shield is damage reduction as well. But overall, like those are like the only two classes that I can think of right now. Every other class, there's not really many of that support archetype where you're providing heals, you're providing damage mitigation, you're providing damage reduction, or even like iframes for like a few seconds, right? Like Ilium, right? Because I feel like we don't see many of that because of potion. Now, even if Nexon kind of did go in the direction I wanted, where there's no more power elixirs, it's all your healing and sustainability is from your party members or from yourself. Then that would mean classes that have lifesteal would probably get readjusted. It'd probably be like bursts of lifesteal, or the amount of healing you get is reduced a lot. If potions were removed from the game, that the ones that heal you, then we would see more classes that have like this support archetype to provide these things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, there are other classes that like can heal and stuff, but the point is still the same. Like, the main source is your potions. Like, at the end of the day, like, that's what you're looking for. That's the cooldown you're looking at. That's what you're waiting for. You're waiting for your potion to come up. So, no, you're right. Potions, they're too fundamental. They need to make so some classes, like, I think it's good that they don't have healing, because then it's like, they'll be a really hard class to play, like Night Lord, for example, right? Like Night Lord last resort class, or Cadena pre KMST change is just like, these are like high risk, high reward classes. But then there should also be some classes that are safer, for like a Bowmaster example, where it's just like you have lifesteal arrows that you could choose to use. So there needs to be more of that, instead of just every class across the board can use their potions and that's it.
Yeah, I think that if potions again were not so prevalent in today's Maplestory, then it would be more of like the damage you take in bosses would be a lot different. I'm thinking of just Saren when you're in sunset phase with the fire pillars. You get hit by that once, 90% of your health is gone.
Yep.
And in that phase, you have less healing potential. Your potions are less effective. There's a dot on you that you have to dispel or will in order to use healing in general. I feel like they're that strong and that punishing because potions exist, right? If potions were not in the game mechanics like that would be a little bit more forgiving. Because of the way that it's designed, and there's server lag, there's double, triple, quadruple pillars in the same spot sometimes.
Yeah.
What do you do, right? Like, obviously these are things that Nexon doesn't account for when it comes to like latency. Like, you don't really design around the fact that latency can happen to that extent, like, right? I think that the way that Nexon would design bosses and the way that they would try to punish players for doing something incorrectly would be a lot better if potions were, not in the game. Like,
yeah. Phil in chat makes a good point. You can use Vihala as an example. The mechanics are a lot less volatile because you are blocked from using potions, which is true. Like, Vihala is a very well designed boss. It's one of the, like, if you think of all the bosses and they're designed, like, Vihala is one of the best designed bosses in the game. It's just true. Like, especially when they remove the maze. Like, this is just like it's a good boss to do. So.
Dark brings up a good point about how everything is HP percent now. It seems pretty funny because I think this was like a really immature way of Nexon handling HP washing back in. Because HP washing was like pretty pay to win. It really did mean a lot. If you were like a dexless thief and you HP washed, you now had avoidability, higher base HP than other thieves or archers as well. It's now you have like the best of both worlds. You're tanky and you still do a lot of damage. Nowadays, everything's HP percent based now. So the value of HP, the value of defense, even like the value of avoidability is kind of just irrelevant in the game now.
Yeah, all those things are irrelevant. Defense, hyper body, avoidability, none of that makes sense. It doesn't matter. Like, literally none of it makes sense. It's all percentage based. Like, every single attack, you gotta know, okay, if I get hit by the two of these super lasers, I get hit by two, I die. Rollings, I get hit by three, I die. Like, that's how it is. And it's like, imagine classes like Paladin or Demon Avenger if things were like a flat amount, right? Like, maybe rolling for max HP wouldn't be as useless anymore on a damage class, right? Like, let's say Night Lord has enough damage, right? So now, like, let's say you want to opt for a shoe that's like has like one line of HP on it just in case, right? Like, now that gives your equips like more variability, and this leads to a whole other thing where it's just like everybody's equips are the same. It's just copy paste. There's no difference in anybody's equips in this whole game. Everybody goes for the same exact thing, the same exact layout. Like, quite frankly, it's kind of dumb. Like, there's nothing. The pot lines, they're just a nuisance. The extra ones, they don't do anything in the game. They just make it the ones that you want to get harder. That's it.
Yeah, I like, because of those stat values like HP, defense, even avoidability are not really relevant in the game now. Avoidability kind of matters for the last resort classes, but aside from the fact, it does kind of make the game a little bit more stale now. The factors about being higher level, having higher tiered gear, is no longer about the fact that, oh, if you have arcanes over Apsos, it's not about like you do more damage because of your arcanes. If HP was an important value still, it could be like you're even tankier with arcanes now because you transitioned from Absol, because arcane has higher base defense and higher HP scalings on each item.
Yep.
These are like aspects of the game that are just lost, and there was high potential because these game design aspects exist in other games where HP actually matters.
Yep. That's exactly right. It's just the search for damage. That's all it is. Everything is just, how can I increase my damage? Nothing else matters. HP doesn't matter. EFS doesn't matter. Avoidability really doesn't matter. Like, nothing matters. It's just your damage. I want to increase my damage, and that's it. And it's so linear. Like, the game is so linear. When like, if you really think about outside of Maple, you think of like the most fun games you've ever played. Well, for me personally, there are games where you could just opt into so many different examples. Like a game that was kind of recent, like Elden Ring, for example. So many different builds, so many different stats you could put it into, and you could experience the game in a completely different way. And Maple, even if you're playing a different class, you're experiencing the game the same way, pretty much. You still are training to get the same equips to just increase your damage and do the same bosses in the same exact way.
That brings me to something else I want to talk about, is the way that items are designed in Maplestory. It's very not that interesting, right? Like you have like your meta golem build of 4-set superior, and then you have your 5-set Absol or arcanes, your 2-set or 3-set CRA, your arcane weapon. That's it. That's your loadout. The items themselves, they don't provide like stats that are interesting. All they do is just give you more damage. What I was hoping that they would do with eternal items was that instead of just only giving you more base all stat, more boss damage, more IAD, just higher scaling on Star Forest, I wish they did things that are more specific to the content where the item comes from. So I wish that arcane items gave you like an arcane passive where you're hunting in the arcane maps. The only thing closest to that is just having symbols where you get bonus damage and bonus damage reduction for having the enough of an arcane threshold to reach it, or you're past it, whatever. I wish that arcane items just gave you like a passive, like, oh, if you're hunting in Arcane River or Choo Choo or whatever, you gain this bonus damage to the mobs, or every time you kill a mob, you get this buff that lets you run around the map faster or something. There has to be more to items and equipment than just the face value of just more stats. There has to be more interesting stats, more game-changing stats that switch up the gameplay. Like, for example, maybe if if you have an arcane hat, you got it to 17 star, you unlocked a perk on it now. Because it's 17 star, you now have decent mystic door on it or some shit. I don't know. Just throwing something out there, right? But now that you upgraded to 22 star, maybe it unlocks a new skill now, or a new perk where you can return to town anytime you want and go back to your map after you're done. As an example, the items in this game need to be way more interesting. And I'm seeing people type in the chat like, oh, there's Breath of Divinity, there's the earrings that are like, game changing or different, but I think those skills are like a wrong way to go about it for Maplestory. Those are pretty powerful items, but they kind of take away from the game. And they're just too strong for what Maplestory is right now.
Yeah, so this actually opens up a lot because it is actually such a good idea. And as you were talking, like more ideas were coming into my head, and I agree. Like items, think of League of Legends for example. You can choose to build straight damage, what like whatever, 6 Rabadon's death caps, get like 2000 AP, sure, but I mean that's one way. Or you could build like I don't know, a hex tag proto belt that will shoot you forward and do an AoE. There needs to be things like that in Maple where like yes there's Ozrings is a good example because it's like you could get rid of a Star Force ring to get this other ring that gives you no stats, but it does give you a really good skill. So that's one good example of how they've implemented that. Another thing that's kind of recent is the Genesis item. Like the Genesis weapon, it gives you a skill and it gives you a passive, which is really cool. I like the Genesis item, but there needs to be more and things that could be accessible to like all stages in the game, not just these like end game like big damage things like Genesis weapon or Oz rings. Even something little, like let's say you could get a ring where it's just it does a little bit of an AoE damage around you and it helps you while training to 200 for example. Like stuff like that would be game changing. Instead of like trains to 200, you just get your Penciler set, you get your CHT set, you Star Force it, Zac set, you Star Force it, 3% stat, and you're done. Like that's it, and then you just use your skills. There needs to be more variability, and these are things that are like so easy to implement too. They're not even like anything that crazy. And like you said, with arcane gear being arcane gear like potentially giving you some bonus in Arcane River, why not Apsos? Why are Apsos absolutely like shit irrelevant now? What if Apsos, for example, gave you more damage on Lotus and Damien? So that would like incentivize you that it's just like, hey, like, you know, some people have Apso gear laying around, or some people could choose to like, let's say you want a 22 Apsos so that you can optimize your Lucid and your Lotus and Damien time because Apsos have an extra special buff on those two bosses specifically, right? And then Arcanes have buffs on specifically like the Arcane River bosses, right? Like that would give you more like variability in your gear instead of just everybody goes 5-set Arcane. That's the best. That's it. So like this can go so many different verticals. Like there's so many things they could add just by like these very little things. Like you had a good idea where it's just like, let's say you get it to 17 stars, you get a little buff like that makes you move a little bit faster in the map. Like okay, that'll incentivize people to not, you know, just get the bare minimum damage they need. Because if you think of like how people funded farmers, like people would fund Kana farmers back when those were relevant, like just the bare minimum 540 AF, you could sit in a side path, you one shot with like Exo, that's it, you don't need to do anything else. Like why not reward a farmer for funding that character more, right? You can make better rates if you fund it more, stuff like that. Like I think cut and dry.
It would have been amazing if they were able to do more with special nodes. Imagine if the special node passives that exist right now were on items. Imagine if you had a fatal node on your weapon as just a passive. Like that just makes the game more interesting now, right? We kind of have that with Genesis weapon. We have the Canadian skill, you have the Canadian Ruin, you have the Aeonian Rise as the iframe. Like if we had like the equivalent of special nodes on items, that would be way more interesting for the game. It would also mean like if I were Nexon, right, and I was adding this where items could have special roles on it like that, then it would be like another RNG system where you would have the equivalent of cubes where you're cubing for a specific item passive or adding item skill, right? I imagine if we had auto recovery on a hat, but you could roll it off for something that gives more damage. Like maybe you roll it off for relentless attack instead, so you have more rotations of your skills while you're training. Now it makes sense to have multiple sets of the same item or just having different sets. You have a hat for training that has -4 on it and it has relentless attack passive on. Like this just makes the game way more interesting. Obviously it makes the game a little bit more complicated, but Maplestory itself it's not that Maplestory is complicated right now. There is just so much information that is required to know about this game that isn't just out there for people to find immediately. like when I think of games that require a lot of information, but the information just isn't really available for players, I'm thinking of PoE, Lost Ark. Like those games, you need to know a lot about the game to be able to enjoy it. But because there's so many people that are passionate about those games, you have sites like Maxroll for Lost Ark where it just tells you everything that you need to know to get started, to get into the end game, what items you need to focus on. Like you just have to understand that even though you're adding another layer of like a complexity to the game, it's way more interesting than if you didn't have it at all. It's another layer of the game that is just refreshing almost. Because now if you had this idea of special nodes on items, you can make new special nodes. Items are now way more interesting. Even like as I'm talking about it right now, it's kind of sad that special nodes have not gotten any changes in a very long. There hasn't been new ones.
3 useful ones. That's it.
Yeah, like there hasn't been new ones. There hasn't been tweaks to them. The only change that I remember is when special nodes expire, they don't disappear. You can disassemble it now, so you get that little like 40 fragments or whatever.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. There's just the game is too. It's too. I don't know. Like it's not. It's just basic. It's such a basic game. Like even if there's a lot of information, it is a very basic game. Like it's so cut and dry. There's no variability to this game. And just to address this real quick, like we mentioned before, like we are reboot players. Like we understand that reg server is different, but we are reboot players. Like we will be talking about reboot. So like the reboot game is just so simple. Like it's just everybody does the same exact thing. Like adding special nodes to your weapon, for example, is like huge. Like you could have it, like just think of the end game players. If we just like zoom in on that little like those players on the game, what is the difference between all the end game players? There's no difference. Like everybody has the same equips. Like
it's pitch boss diff.
Yeah, and that's like the dumbest out of control thing, right? There's no difference between everybody. Like what if you had players that are like, let's say you as Tommy as a DB, you specialized, you hyper focused on your burst. Like you're like a DB that like you put all your special nodes or whatever into your burst. Like they all affects your burst. So your burst is super, super big. But another DB who's also very strong, he focuses more on like Bodnado damage. So his Bodnados hit harder than yours, right? So that way you could compare like you know, there's two different sizes. Yeah, you're both DBs. Yeah, you have the same equips, but you know, one person's Bodnados does way more damage than the other. Like that guy would be stronger than you in Dojo, for example, but you would be stronger than him in Black Mage, for example. Like stuff like that. So I think that would be like huge on this game versus everybody just pretty much being clones of each other.
Yep. That was like, I still have one more talking point, but it's a lot different than what we were talking about just. But okay. I'm ready to move on to that talking point if you think that what we just talked about was satisfactory enough.
I mean,
if there's anything else you wanted to say.
I mean, I feel like I'm pretty much like gave all my thoughts on the KMST patch and everything we were talking about. We kind of like diverged from the KMST patch a bit, but it's still fine. There's still two other like big topics we gotta cover. So
yeah, we weren't looking to do like a patch rundown or anything. We were just mainly focusing on 4 minutes becoming 2 minutes. What could it mean? Like what options does Nexon have moving forward? It because they moved it from 4 minutes to 2 minutes. Are they going to shake up the game by introducing new bosses that have way different like boss designs and whatnot? Not just like the way they look, but how the boss fight is handled. Right? Maybe it's not so much about, because it seems like tests are like the thing they really like right now.
Yeah, tests.
Like for Saren. Yeah, for Saren, like everyone's got to be in the same spot at the same pillar and ducking. And then they remove ducking, and then like, okay, you just got to stand there, and then everyone lives. Now for Kalos, it's like, okay, you have 4 mini games you got to be aware of now. You have to shoot your little arrow to cool down that mechanic, because if they're overheated the entire time, your party wipes. Like it's when I saw the reveal for Kalos and I realized what kind of boss fight it was going to be, I was just very disappointed. I just knew that boss was not going to be fun at all. It was going to be a chore to do.
Word. Yeah, it's one of those. That's gonna be annoying. It's just gonna be another H-Will. H-Will's a chore. Nobody likes doing H-Will at the end game. Like, it's just an annoying ass boss. Like, I know people like once they have their book, like they don't even run H-Will. Like, even though like yeah, it gives money like what 400 mil or something for a solo. Like yeah, that's good money, but H-Will's just annoying. Like you, no matter how strong you get, like it's just you have to do these stupid ass mini games, and it's like at some point like it's just not even worth your time. It's not fun anymore. Like the novelty wears off. So.
I still like the design of Will outside of the fact that the tests are segmented into 2 minutes. It's like not as annoying for Dual Blade and Shadower, sorry, because the cooldowns kind of line up, and luckily I'm strong enough to that it doesn't matter as much. But I still like the design of Will. It like there's 3 phases to it, and each phase is so different, and it plays with the moonlight differently. Like that, Will is just almost the best design boss in my, outside of the fact that it is 2-minute tests, so there is that fault.
Yeah, I mean mine goes to Vihila, but yeah.
All right, for the last talking point I want to talk about for this topic, like for where we kind of devolved into, is the life system in Maplestory. Lives, right? So a long time ago, it was just 1 life, 1 entry. That's it. You die, you're just a floating ghost on a tombstone until you click OK and you get sent back to town.
Yeah,
like that was a very common thing back then, and there was only 1 class. I don't think Paladin had this yet, but it was just Cleric, I believe, that had Resurrect, and it was like a super long cooldown where you could realistically only bring back 1 person with that skill. And I thought that was like a pretty interesting. It was pretty interesting back then about how this worked, right? Like imagine if we were to try to implement this into today's Maplestory, where it's no longer about you have 5 lives in this boss. You only have 1 life, and you could maybe cheat yourself back in with a Bishop res or a Paladin res or even BT res, but you have 1 life only. However, there's a test or a mechanic in the boss fight that allows you to res everyone that died. Like I think that would be very interesting if they were to bring back like that kind of, like boss battle. Because back in the day where it's like Horntail was a 2-hour fight, or maybe 12-hour fight. I think the timer was 12 hours. 12-hour fight. Zakam was like you just you in this little big tree rock, and some people would lag when they go right and they walk into Zakam and they just die, and you're just dead. You can't do anything anymore. You played your life, but you still had that 1 chance if if the cleric decided to bring you back. If they brought that to Maplestory again, like imagine if Darmor was like that, the end game boss of Grandis, where you have 1 life only, but if you do this mechanic, you can bring everyone back. That would be sick. I think that would be really cool, because then for that fight, that means if you soloed it, you legit just played perfect.
Yeah,
like almost perfect, basically, pretty much, if you were able to solo that boss.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think the whole 1 life thing is a good idea. I think the whole having an opportunity to bring back somebody who died out is a good idea. Like, it's just not fun. Like sometimes you die out, or like, I mean, to an even further extent, you DC. Like it's just wraps. Like it's just nothing you can do about it. Like, why can't it be that instead of dying out and getting kicked out immediately and you're back at the entrance, you go to some other room that you have the option to either wait to see that maybe, let's say your party member can maybe do the mechanic to bring you back if you're in that room, or they could even choose like 1 person to bring back. It doesn't even necessarily have to be everybody. Instead, and if you DC, like you log in, you're back in that room, right? Like, I feel like the game it would just make way more sense to be like that, instead of just DC, that's it, you're done. Or if you die out, that's it, you're done. Like, it's so like black or white. Like, you have to survive. Now, the way they kind of balance it is by giving you multiple lives, but that still doesn't solve like a DCing issue. But especially with 1 life, like it should be like that if you only have 1 life.
Yeah, because it's interesting though, right? When we look at other bosses, we notice that some bosses you have 20 lives, like Magnus. I think it's 20 lives of Magnus, right? Or was it 30? Something ridiculous.
15, I think.
Oh, 15. Okay, and then you look at Lotus and H Will, or Lotus and Damien. You only have 5 lives. You look at Lucid where you have 10 lives. It's interesting that they have like these variances in the life system because they probably realize that the mechanics that can kill you in that fight can happen very often if you're very unlucky.
Mm-hmm.
So, it'd be interesting if for Saren you only I believe Saren you only have 5 lives as well.
Yeah.
Imagine if Saren you only had like 2 lives or 3 lives instead of like the standard like all the life systems seem to be in multiples of 5 except for like Black Mage where you have 12.
Yeah, so Black Mage I think is designed well. Something like Saren, I think Saren you could take the lives from it because Saren you don't really die in that boss, to be honest. It's more about just getting gauged. Like that's the scarier thing. That's like aren't that I like a genuine like P1 Saren you will die more often P1 than P2. Like that's just how it is. So and then take it a step further, like maybe you could even have different lives for different phases. Like P1 could be 5 lives, but P2 could be like 1 life or something like that. So.
Yeah, I mean that's okay. I think that's all I had to say about just the idea of a different life system in the game. Because the difference is you either have 5, 10, 15 lives, or there's Black Mage where you have lives you can lose from curses outside of deaths. It's another layer of the game that just hasn't really been explored too much by Next.
Yeah, that's good. That's a bunch of stuff covered. Do you want to move on to the next topic?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so this kind of still relates to the same topic, so I'm not gonna change the topic on the screen, but it's basically just the whole 6-month gap between KMS and GMS. The famous 6-month gap, like, you know, we just saw the KMST patch. When is it going to happen? Probably 6 months from now. And, you know, that's just how it's been for so long. And why is it like this? Like, we've seen things get accelerated. We've seen things get pushed back. But why is it always just 6 months? Like, why can't we get things quicker? Like compensation, for example, and compensation is a pretty extreme example because the game was literally broken. We got that shit like right away, like that comp hit immediately, and yeah, that was really good with the comp. But some things like take so long to arrive, and we have to wait so long. When I'm pretty sure like it really doesn't take that long to implement it for us. Like, there's no way. Like, there's no way it takes 6 months for them to implement it for us, right?
For sure. So let's get like into the logistics of this, right? So
Yeah.
what do we think the reason is, and what is like the reality of what's happening? So of course the game originally originates from South Korea, and when we've gotten to the point in GMS where we understand the pattern now. We're just copying and pasting content that they get to our server, and we're just waiting for it to get localized in the fact that it gets translated. It has to, there's like, because GMS is like a really like terrible carbon copy of KMS, there's legacy code that the current developers probably don't even know what it does. So there's always these bugs that happen. And we've seen like the Bean Brigade previews of Destiny Remaster, even before all of those patches where they showcase, oh look, this is the new patch that's coming to GMS, and then they run into bugs. And then those bugs get submitted by them, but then by the time it hits live, those bugs still aren't fixed. So to kind of like give insight to everyone that doesn't know this already, GMS used to have an in-house dedicated devs. But that was like a very long time ago. That was back when we had Nebulite still. That was back when free market was still something that existed and mattered. In this day and age, the devs that work on GMS, they're based in South Korea.
Yeah.
That is why the server maintenances and the patches happen like at these weird hours for us sometimes, because it's it's the afternoon for us, but it's like deep at night for them, and they're doing this, right? I'm going to link this video to you, and I'll link it in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
This is the dev team that worked on the Kana and Hayato changes, like back when Kana got boss as a summon and such.
Yeah.
So this is the small team. Now we know that they're the devs, but we're not. I'm not sure if these are the guys that work on translation and localizing the content either. But for sure, these are the guys that are like kind of responsible for porting it into our version of the game. And because GMS is not a perfect copy of KMS, we do have non-KMS content that exists within the game. And I can only imagine as a software dev, it's pretty unpredictable about what kind of bugs are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
They're definitely not sure what's going to happen. And even when they get the bugs submitted during the preview time from the Beam Brigade members, there's honestly probably not enough time for them to debug and find a fix for a bug until later. And that is just the result of not enough resources being put into GMS. Now, Nexon NA operates in California, but as we know, as I'm saying it, the dev team is based in South Korea. So
yeah,
GMS is now like forever now in this just negative feedback infinite loop, where because GMS isn't making really great margins, if any at all. We don't really know the numbers, because Nexon's income is like a collective of all the Nexon titles, right? For GMS or NA. So I'm pretty sure Maplestory is probably still making them pretty decent money. However, because it's not making more or not enough, they're like, we don't really need to put more resources into it. But because GMS doesn't get more resources into it, it's not making enough of a margin for them to consider it. And because it's not making enough of for them to consider it, they don't do it. So it's just like this never-ending cycle. And there's only so much that us as a consumer can do. Even when we spend more money in the game, like you've seen all those people, whenever Wonder Wisps are out or new PSSB per rotations out, there's people buying, and it's just an endless freaking chat log of this guy got this item, this guy got this pet.
Yeah.
There's people spending money on this game. There were big whales on this game. You got people with 9 vac pets on 3 different characters or more. But it's kind of like reinforcing to Nexon, like, oh, like we're spending this little resources and we're still making this much money. Why do we need to spend more? People are just going to keep spending money, and they do. They do keep spending money, right? So it's very hard for this cycle to break. It really just sucks to be a Maplestory fan in 2022.
Yeah, it does. No, you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly right. Like it feels like there's nothing we could do, because it's just like if we stop spending money, then they're gonna care. Then they're gonna care even less. If we do spend money, then they're gonna be like, "Hey, we're making money anyways, and we're not even trying for it." Like, it's like nothing we could do. Like, it's just terrible.
Exactly. So, like, in our position as GMS players, our voice, which is sad to say, rarely matters. It really does rarely matter. Everything good that's ever happened to us is a byproduct of the fact that it happened in KMS first, and we got it like 6 months later. With exception to compensation flames and whatnot, that happens like within like a week. For us, it's like no matter how much we cry, shout, and speak our hearts out on like, we really love this game, we really wish you guys could do this, like what can we do to make this happen? It just doesn't happen, right?
Yep.
And at some point, I don't remember the timeline, our voices did matter at some point a really long time ago, and it mattered when GMS had like this poll with the players, like, do you guys want flames? Yeah, because we had Nebulites back then. Like, do you guys want flames? Like, should we introduce flames to GMS? And when they were introducing flames, I think we were still like on 12 stars, and then they introduced 25 star with the flames. Yeah, and that was like a big paradigm shift for everyone, because now we're fucking strong now. We can do bosses now. I think when we still had 12 star and Nebulites, Hard Damien and Hard Lotus were already they existed, but it was just
Yeah.
impossible to do.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Those were
literally
the end game impossible bosses. Those ones. Yeah.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It was just impossible to do. But so like that was like so long ago. That was when we had a voice. Now it's just we're just kind of praying that the people in KMS are aware of our struggles, or that they have the same struggles as us, so that they can talk about it, and then maybe it gets fixed. And a lot of it has fixed. There's so many quality life changes that's happened in the past 3-4 patches now. Maplestory today is definitely a lot better than it was 5 years ago.
Oh yeah.
That's just
Oh
a
yeah.
fact in all
Oh
aspects.
hell yeah.
Like the player experience, the progression, the just overall, it's a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
It still sucks, but it sucks less. It definitely sucks less.
Yeah. So things like quality of life, like that stuff is especially frustrating because that stuff shouldn't take 6 months to arrive. Like that stuff is just like you can make the argument for events, like event timelines, like um for example, like it doesn't make any sense like us being in Destiny right now. We should get ignition right away because KMS just got ignition. Like no, that doesn't make sense. But things that are like quality of life, like those should just be rolled out. Like there should be two different versions of updates. There should be like updates where we get events, and that's fine. Like we can get the events later than them. But there should be other updates, maintenances, for example, that are just for quality of life. Like let's say in KMS they have the bright idea of you don't need to like I don't know buy a hyper rock anymore, right? Like hyper rock and reboot is just everybody has one. You don't need it anymore. You can just click on the map permanently. Then sure, like every single server should get that immediately. Like there's no reason not to. Like those things are especially frustrating that we don't get immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Like loot room, box loot room. Like we have to wait so long to get that. Like thankfully we're maybe gonna get it next patch, but like why can't we just get it right away? Like it's so helpful.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny you say that because I wanted to transition what you just said into the next talking point about the 6 month update gap between GMS and KMS.
Mm-hmm.
Is the fact that it's hard for me to gauge this because we're both end gamers and we're just kind of surrounded by a lot of end gamers, right? I guess for you, you're also surrounded by mid gamers and new players as well. But for me, it's just like mainly end gamers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for us, since we're end gamers, most of us are just like so used to that min max mentality of I gotta look at orange mushroom post, sell it to max. By the way, thank you for translating all
True,
the time.
go.
But orange mushroom post, you just like you go there, you're waiting for him to post the KMST update, and then you're waiting for him to post the live update for his translation, and you're like, damn, this thing made it. Damn, that thing made it. And now you have like this hype that you feel within you, like, damn, I'm so looking forward to Maplestory. But the hype just kind of dies down because it's 6 months away, and you're like, okay, like what I do now? I'm playing with this version of Maplestory, and this version of Maplestory is not as good as that one that's in 6 months. It feels like terrible, and this is like a combination of the fault of us as a player, and us being like the min maxer, and the fault of just Nexon and A not being able to close that 6 month gap to like maybe 2 months or even 1 month, right?
Yeah.
Us as min maxers, we can't help but spoil the curiosity and just kind of just indulge in it and just trying to figure out like, okay, we have like this 6 months like lens to look in the future. We know how to prepare for this new content or these content changes right now. I gotta min max and do it, but because of like this pro you get for being able to look into the future, you kind of spoil yourself this hype. It would have been the experience as a player from all aspects, as a new player, mid game player, end gamer. If Maplestory's content was a global release every time, like every region got it at the same time, imagine if every region got Black Mage at the same time. Everyone would be fucking hyped.
Yeah.
Like everyone would have been fucking hyped. Everyone was hyped when they saw it in KMS, but they still had to wait like 6 months until it finally came to their server.
Yeah.
Right? Like it would be so much more fun and more interactive as a player if in GMS if we didn't have like the 6 month lens. And it brings me to my next point where because we have like this ability to look into the future of what GMS is going to get, it's very hard to find people that are interested in doing blind prog for
Mm-hmm.
bosses. Like blind progging is something that like is almost never a thing in MapleStory because everyone is looking into the future. They're looking at KMS trying to do the boss. I remember
Yeah.
when when Will came out for the first time, and I was watching the Koreans do it. I was like, "What am I looking at? It's like a bullet hell," and
Yeah.
I'm just seeing people like drop like flies. Like, what is going on in this boss? And that were looking to clear that boss were like hard analyzing it, watching the Korean streams, watching Korean VODs, hyper analyzing everything so that they're prepared for when it comes. But that idea of blind progging is just gone. You don't really have that as an option. Blind progging is something that I wish was something that's feasible because I think it's the most organic way to enjoy a game.
Yeah.
You're taking it in as it's happening,
Mm-hmm. No,
right? But
I completely agree.
you kind of don't get that with MapleStory because even if I did my damnest to just not look at it, I'm surrounded by endgamers. They're just gonna be talking about it. I'm in multiple Discord servers. At that point, if I wanted to just shut myself out from that possibility of being spoiled, I would just have no one to talk to about the game
Mm-hmm.
because that's all there is to talk to about MapleStory. What's happening next? What's next best thing that's gonna come out? You know, it just sucks that this update gap is just so big.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Um, like with me, for example, I actually have never seen any Callus footage, believe it or not. But I've heard so many people talk about Callus so long that I already know what the boss does. And it's like I can't even go into it raw because there's no point. Like there's literally no point. Like, and then even if you do want to go into it raw, you have to do it with a party, and your party, all five of them, probably have already studied and learned the boss a lot. So you have to play catch up. Like you have to look at it regardless. You can't like there's it's I'm gonna say it's impossible to find a full party of six that's like blind prog. Like you're just not. Like one of them or two of them at least is gonna already know what the boss is, and they're gonna like be telling you about it. So
Yeah.
that's how it is. Like Maple, you literally like can't. And just to address someone in chat saying Brendan saying like he doesn't like the idea that if we get the patch instantly. We're not saying instantly. We're just saying not 6 months. Like give it a month, give it 2 months, even 3 months. But 6 months is just such a long time. And what you were talking about earlier, Jay, about being excited about something for 6 months, it's so annoying. You're right, because it's like when Explorers first got announced, they're getting revamped. Like there was just so much hype over it, but eventually it's just like there's only so much you could be hyped about. Like eventually it just runs out. You can watch all the KMS videos for the first couple weeks, but eventually you just like, oh, back to farming, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is gonna have to happen at some point. And so that mentality is even worse for non KMS classes, and this is something that I've experienced personally as a Hayato main. You are just so in the dark. And this is like a GMS issue specific, or you're
Yeah.
just so in the dark your whole life that you don't even get to be excited about. You don't even get those 2 weeks of excitement that everybody else gets. Like you just get nothing. Like you just get, and you don't even know until the patch hits. It's not even like a week before. It's until the patch hits, because I remember like when Princess Akuno's blessing came out, and then they initially had it in the test server 100% final damage for,
Oh yeah.
and then when the patch hit, on the patch notes it said they reduced it to 50%. And it's like stuff like that. Like everything is so volatile to change for GMS, for non KMS classes, that you don't find out until the day of the patch. So it's even more miserable.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Like for me personally, I'm not gonna go too deep into this, but just to keep it short, when I saw, because I think the order of reveal was like it was Nightlight first, and then it was Shadower, and then it was Dual Blade. I think when I saw Dual Blade, I was so disappointed
Oh
because
yeah.
Nightlight, it looked a little funky with the skull and purple explosions. Like, okay, yeah, I mean, good thing I'm not playing that class right now, but it looks a little funky with that. But they got a dash, they got an up jump that doesn't do damage. They got advanced dark sight basically. So okay, I'm sure Nightlord mains are happy with that. You look at Shadower, like Pog, like you can cancel your Sonic Blow by linking it with Trick Blade or Shadow Assaulting out of it, and so much more. The assassinate canceling got changed, and so many more other quality life changes happened for Shadower. And I'm like, okay, nice. Like these two got what they got. Maybe I want to get what I get on Dual Blade, and then nope. You look at the first like initial footage. You got Dual Blade's Phantom Blow. It just looks like noodles flying around. It looked so bad. And on top of like the skills weren't even finished. I think Dual Blade's like skill reveal during that initial like showcasing was the only skill that had transparency. Every other skill was like you could see it full up 100% opacity. But for Dual Blade it was like 50%. Like you could barely see it. And it just goes to show like not all classes are created equally. Not every person or dev team that's working on that class is giving it the same amount of effort.
Mm-hmm.
And it's evident. When you look at Adele's main attack skill has 2 animations for it.
3.
It's got the cleave, or 3.
Yeah,
it's got the
3.
cleave, the double spin. I don't know what the third one is.
The clap.
Oh, okay, yeah, there you go. Yeah. Adele's main attack has 3 animations for it. Every other class just has like 1. Some of them have 2. Like they were on something when they made Adele. When they made Dual Blade, they were just it was like they were working overtime and they were like, we just gotta ship it out and we're done. Like,
yeah,
they did not like what they did to that Dual Blade was like the last customer you got that when your shop's closing in 5 minutes, and this guy wants to order a pizza. Like you're just throwing that in the oven, it's overcooked. Fuck it, whatever. Here's your pizza, man.
They use a pizza cutter, so
true. Yeah. That's another thing because we're like have like the 6 months lens. I had to sit with the fact that Dual Blade just got shafted for 6 months, right? And when it finally came, I was pretty happy. Like, okay, yeah, maybe it wasn't so bad, but I'm still not happy with the visual changes. I'm still not happy with the sound effect changes, and I'm still not happy that Dual Blade just didn't get that much love compared to the other classes in general.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just one of those things where it just stings that 6 months. I waited 6 months for this. Fuck, man, really? You really gotta do me like that next time?
But I guess that just goes to show how important it is to diversify your play style, right? Because the people who have a lot of mains or they've invested into a lot of different characters, like they're less disappointed because they always have something to fall back on. But it's unfortunate. It's a good thing and a bad thing because it's a good thing that you diversify your champion pool like in League, but like same with Maple, like you diversify all the classes you play, but it's bad because Maple promotes like funding one character to reach like an end game. Like the way the game designed is like if you want to reach end game, like you're probably just gonna have to focus on one character, which is scary because it's like if that one character gets nerfed, Khan is the perfect example. You're just fucked. Like you're actually just fucked. Like there's nothing you could do about it. But if you were to spend your resources all on a bunch of different classes, like you have like 6 mains, for example, sure you could you could fall back on any one of them if one of those gets nerfed, but you're probably not going to be doing that far into the game content. Like you're probably not doing Black Mage on all of them. You're probably not doing Saren on all of them. You're probably just like Lomian on all of them, right? So it's like it's hard. You can't have both.
Yeah. And I don't know if I should bring this up, but I just kind of thought of it as you were saying it. I think that's also why just private servers are just so prevalent still.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so much more streamlined. People get to the end game a lot quicker. And there's like 54, 56 something classes at Maplestory. Those guys can probably get all of them to end game in like a couple of months or something.
Yeah.
And just after that, they're all Maplestoried out. They got the taste everything, pretty much.
Yeah. Hokey Pokey in chat makes a good point. Getting flat Meso on Crystal is actually so stale because I can just make infinite Lomian mules and it makes better money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than pushing another character to like end game. Exactly. Like the game, even this whole okay, so this is a good transition to the whole dynamic Crystal change that was implemented, right? Like KMS got dynamic, we just got a 5x flat. Why? Like, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Like, it's weird. So for my thoughts on like the whole dynamic Crystal thing, like it's good. I feel like it's good for like the average person, the average player who's just like, you're starting out, You don't get that far into the game. You want to try out other classes. Sure, you can make a lot of money that way. But for the veterans or people who play this game a lot, like it's so boring doing the same bosses over and over again on different characters. And if you want to fund a character to end game, the only real thing that you get from it is just because it's fun and you want to play. You don't really get more money doing it, because if you want to be optimized, and a lot of these end game players focused on being optimized, like you're just gonna do low mean mules. Like that's the best way to make money. Instead of like Jeff, for example, Jeff who's like liberated on like 100,000 characters, like he's not like rewarded for doing that really. He just does it because he likes it, which is like it sucks because it's like, yeah, you could do it because you like it, but why not also get rewarded from it in the game? Like they should have had both. Like they should have had it dynamic and a higher flat. Like that way everybody wins. But the fact that we just got flat is kind of sucks. It's a good thing and a bad thing. So
Mm-hmm. It just made me remember something. A comment I remember seeing on like Inven, which is a Korean forum.
mm-hmm.
On the Inven for Maplestory section, I remember seeing someone saying that GMS is just a better KMS, in that KMS is like the live testing ground, and when GMS gets it 6 months later or whatever,
I see.
it's perfect or it's better. But the reality of it is no, it's actually the other way around. GMS's server is like, we are the test server, right? We don't even have a test server, or we do, but it just doesn't get utilized, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's no point of having a test server if we don't have the resources to fix those bugs that we discover in the test server before it even goes live.
Mm-hmm.
So it just, yeah, again, we talked about it before. It just goes hand in hand about the negative feedback loop. And there's the only way to just close this gap is if Nexon realizes the potential that Maplestory has in the NA market and just dumps more money into it.
Yeah. So do you know if KMS, when they have patches launched, do you know if it's the same like as GMS? Because whenever we get a patch update, it's buggy as hell. There's probably gonna be a maintenance again after to fix it. Do you know if in KMS if that's the same thing? Because I remember hearing that KMS maintenances are way shorter and that they could do them without even taking the game down.
Oh,
And I feel like when their game goes off maintenance, they don't have bugs. Like they're good to go. When it's up, it's up. Not like us. When it's up, it's like not really up. It's got to go down again. Then it's up.
I'm not too sure about what the state of KMS is like when it goes live, but the
Kobe would
KMST,
know.
yeah, Kobe would definitely know. Sure,
Yeah.
the KMST is, it's utilized, right? It is definitely utilized in KMS because I remember one of the bugs when we got fourth V, right? Phantoms, they got their Rift Maker or Rift Walker, whatever it's called. They were able to spam it while using their key down, where they throw a bunch of cards,
Mm-hmm.
and people were not sure if
Joker.
if that was an intended, Joker. They were not sure if that was like an intended interaction or not, and they were just like posting it everywhere on YouTube, on Invin, on their official forums, on other forums, and bug fixes like that get fixed like immediately. And also like since then, I feel like Maplestory has just come a long way. The community understands now that their voices are actually being heard now, and I feel like because they recognize that their voices are being heard, they're putting more effort into trying to make the game better. Like they're really voicing their concerns that, oh, this class really needs to have this, or this change in the game is really not good. You gotta make it this way instead, right? And Nexon just kind of, they kind of take suggestions. They kind of do it halfway almost. Like they take it to the halfway point where they are listening to what the players are doing or want, but then they kind of want to put their own spin on it and be like, yeah, it would make sense for you guys to have this, but we want to put it right here for now so we can monitor it and see how it goes. But
Yeah.
in terms of like serviceability, I'm not too sure about what it's like when it goes long. I would imagine that it's probably just fine. I don't even think like other Korean titles really have that like big issues either. Like since we play MapleStory or just in general, many of us play Nexon games. They're all pretty buggy here and there. If you only play MapleStory, then I guess you wouldn't be able to verify. But I've played like a lot of the Nexon titles. I used to play Vindictus. I used to play Combat Arms. Like I used to play a lot of the NA titles, Nexon NA titles. But I only play MapleStory right now, in terms of Nexon titles.
I gotcha. I feel like that pretty much wraps up like the whole 6 month conversation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we could move on to our next overarching topic if you're down for that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go.
Okay. So our next topic is going to be about the state of guilds and alliances in MapleStory. So what are we talking about exactly? We're talking about, just guilds and alliances. Like what does it mean to be in a guild? Why should you be in a guild? What does an alliance mean? What benefits do you get from all this stuff? Do you want to start us off?
Oh yeah, for sure. So what I want to say is, what does Nexon think a guild provides to players in game, right? So Nexon thinks that you join a guild, you have access to guild skills, you get the passive perks depending on the level of the guild, you are now a part of the community. But what is the reality of it when you actually join a guild? Well, when you join a guild, you're also joining a Discord server.
Yep.
Because in the Discord server of that guild, that is where majority of the conversations, majority of the relationships are formed. And it's not to say that those things can't happen without a Discord server, but Discord itself has just become really prevalent in the gaming sphere of the platform to talk to players and discover new people. Before it was like Skype, and even before Skype, there was AIM. Like, it was very limited. Even Windows Messenger was like, pretty up there too. But Discord now is like come a long way in terms of what communication between gamers is now. It's like, even without Discord back then, we were still able to like make friendships and able to have good friends and guilds with just like the in-game chat system, right? And if you wanted to keep in touch with them, then that was where you would use AIM, Windows Live, Messenger, Skype, the whole shebang. So outside of just like the reality of you joining a Discord server, the next reality is most people, when they join the guild, they're looking for something in return. They have, like, not to make it seem malicious, but there is an ulterior motive, right? They want to be part of a community so that these people can help them get transitioned to the game. Maybe there's boss carry system in the guild. I remember like back then it was very popular that guilds like Smile, for example, or Spring, where if you had the requirements to join, you can join, but you could not expect boss carries from people that were offering it unless you had 15k GP or 50k GP or something, right?
That was the guild meta back then. It was always like, get X amount of GP, and then you pretty much unlock the ability to get carried.
Pretty much. And this was just like a mutual respect kind of thing. Like, sure, you already passed the first test of getting into the guild. We're still going to figure out if you fit in with the guild or not. Maybe you're a jerk. Maybe everyone loves you. You're fun to have around. But at the very least, you got to be at this GP in order for you to get carries. And it's just like the guild carry etiquette. Like, don't ask for carries, but when someone's offering it, voice yourself. That you want to participate then, right? And when you join guilds, the next reality of joining a guild is there's a level of competitiveness now that you are now introduced into. You are now responsible for flag racing, for covert, and if you're a guild that's still leveling up to 30 or 25, I don't remember what the number is, 30. Then then we got to do your check-in bonus, like stuff like that is really easy. But the big thing is flag race and covert, right? And because the way the guild skills are distributed now, it's basically just covert that is the one that decides, is your guild top 10, top 5, number 1, right? And I don't know if this is like the best way to handle something like that in MapleStory, right?
It's
because when the guild revamp happens, when the guild revamp happened, so many guilds just died. They all the small guilds just fucking dissolved and got absorbed into the bigger guilds because guilds got expanded to 200 slots now or something, and people now all the top guilds were trying to compete. They want the strong players so that they can score really high in Culvert. And I remember the first day of Culvert, our scores didn't even get registered.
Yep.
Like, it was terrible. Like outside of like the functionality of it, like so many communities just died or got absorbed. The idea of a small guild now, there are very big underlying cons outside of the pros, right? So let's think about it. You're in a small guild, you are more closer to the people around you. It's less touch and go basis. It's more of like you log on, everyone says welcome back, you know everyone's name, or you get to know everyone. But the con is maybe your guild skills aren't as fleshed out as compared to like Excel or Elite or like all the other guilds, right? Epic as well as example beaters, and it's now this kind of thing where if you are a player that wants to progress further, you're now aware of the fact that if you don't join a top guild, you're at an inherent disadvantage.
Yeah.
Right. So like what I mean by that, like if you're joining Bounce or Elite or like any of the guilds in Ethereal, it's more than just joining a top guild and for guild skills. You now inherently have access to strong players and their opinions, right?
Yep.
I know in the Elite Discord we have like a help channel, and people are more than welcome to ask questions, and people from different backgrounds, like different like backgrounds in terms of where they are in the game, are going to voice their opinion and give them like, oh yeah, considering you want this to happen, then you should consider doing this, doing that, and so on, right? More than one occasion, I've had people DM me because I play Dual Blade or I play Shadowware, and they're just asking me. Obviously,
Yep.
I would have preferred if they just used the help channel, and if I see it, then I'll say something. But people they're just going to DM you regardless, right? And that's like another thing that just comes with joining guilds in general. There's inherently this want or need that you're aiming for when you join a guild, and it's both good and bad. And the good of it is that you meet stronger players, you find yourself liking the game more because the people around you are like-minded, and they kind of push you to progress faster or farm more or hit the practice mode more often or something. Like you have motivation from people around you that help you motivate yourself to go further in the game, right? Mm-hmm. And then usually the bad is there's like one of two things, right? The person gets burnt out. They reach their goals, or they weren't able to reach their goals because of RNG, and they realize now that, okay, like I joined this guild trying to reach this goal and I wasn't able to reach it. Why am I in this guild anymore? Right? Like maybe the friends that they made were too like it was more of an exchange kind of like a relationship, you know what I mean?
Yep.
It wasn't really like a friendship kind of thing. It was like, oh yeah, you carry me this, I carry you that, like that kind of touch and go kind of relationship. And then they realized, you know what, this guild really isn't all that. I don't really have like the close friends I had when I was in the other guild I used to be in. Why did I leave? Right? They didn't reach their goals, so they're like, okay, look, I reaped my rewards, for lack of a better phrase. I'm out of here. See you guys. Thanks for having me. Bye. Right? And I know I'm like saying this and like kind of painting it negatively, or I sound kind of salty when I say this, but that is just like the reality of it, right? When people are joining top guilds, they always have like this ulterior motive of progressing further or expecting carries or whatever, or just trying to be friends with the strongest people in the game because they think it brings them clout or some shit. Then there's the second thing that happens, right? They realize that they're not burnt out, but they reach their goal. Mm-hmm. And they realize, okay, I reached my goal. I've cleared every boss in the game. There's no need for me to be in this guild anymore. But then they have like this weird logic where I can only be friends with my friends if I'm in the same guild as them.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Mm-hmm.
And it's really strange to me. Now, obviously, like there's going to be those people that tease you for like, oh, dude, like we're friends, right? How come you're not in our guild? Come join our guild. You're friends with this guy. You're friends with that guy. Why are you still in this guild, bro? Come. But it seems so strange because it's like, why is it so important for you to be in the same guild?
Yeah.
Why can't you can still be friends, can you not?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a weird ass relationship where it's like, oh yeah, you're not in the same guild as us, we can't be friends. Like that's just, when you say it like that, it sounds whack, right?
Yeah, but that's the reality situation. Like that's how some people think, And it's just so crazy to me. Like I don't get it. A lot of people, I've seen this with Excel personally. Like, they'll leave the guild and they'll be like, I just want to go be in my friend guild. And it's like at the end of the day, yeah, you could do whatever you want. You could join your friend guild, but it's like you made the case of joining our guild because you wanted to be part of our community and you wanted to like, build relationships with people inside. And now it's like you have to go back to your own guild to be friends with you, like the people you say you're friends. Like why? What does it matter to be part of their guild? Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like you just get the same logo under you. Does that really mean that much?
It 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 sours the mood a lot because these are like these thoughts that people have. It's not about insecurities at this point. It's about like, damn, this guy, he joined and he seems really cool and they seem to really get along with everyone. And now they just suddenly decided that they left because they're going to a friends guild. Like, were we not friends? Like, were we like not tight like that enough? Like that you had to like leave our guild to join their guild? Like,
Yeah.
these are like human thoughts to have. It just feels really bad. I'm like, damn, like I really liked you as a friend, or I thought we were getting along really well, and now it feels like, we can't be friends because you're in that guild and not in mine. It just feels really weird, right?
Yep.
And people are going to say like, oh, just don't take it personal, just don't take it personal. But like, it's not about taking it personal. These are just human thoughts to have, and it feels weird that this is the way that it feels weird that this happens more often than not.
Yeah. No, this does happen a lot, especially in the top guilds because what you were talking about before, like, the relationship with joining a guild, it's very transactional. It's very just like, I'm joining so I could help you get higher culvert, and since you get higher culvert, I get better guild skills. It goes both ways. And that's fine. Like I don't think there's anything malicious or wrong with that cuz it's kind of the same thing in real life with companies. It's like I want to work at Apple because, I'll get paid a lot and I work for something that I like, right? It's like it just goes both ways. And it's the same with guilds. It's just like you want to join, let's just say, let's just use Epic as an example, right? Good community, good guild skills. I want to join, be part of them. But like, why would you want to leave that to be with your friends? Because then it's like you're losing all of your resources that you wanted to be with your friends when you could have just been with your friends anyways. Like I know for Excel personally, like a lot of people in Excel, they don't even hang out in the Excel Discord. They go hang out with their little friend Discords, but at the same time they just want the max guild skills, and that's perfectly okay. I just find it very, very strange when people leave, when they leave
Mm-hmm.
for the reason of going to be with their friends. Like I don't know, it's odd.
So something that Moondoggy brought up which is pretty factual, is that there are a lot of guilds that just have their own cliques,
Oh yeah.
but you're gonna find that everywhere,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The difference is if you go to your friend's guild, is that your clique is there already, right? It's not any different if you're going, you're just going from one clique to another one. You're saying that, oh, I left this guild because there's so many cliques, but now you're leaving the guild to join the clique that you
I
had
mean,
before,
you're making
right?
you're leaving your guild to be in another clique, which just promotes more cliques that somebody else is gonna have an issue with. That's not you, right? Like it's so this is a subject that I'm like passionate about because when I was a baby on this game, like I joined a guild and there was a very obvious clique in that guild, and this is something that I see people experience a lot on this game. And it is something that you will experience on the game. Like if you join a guild, the guild probably already has an established clique, and it's really hard to kind of get into the circle and be likable because if you put yourself out there too much, you could be seen as annoying. If you don't put yourself out there at all, you're kind of just nobody. So it's like it's really hard to balance out. So I think it's very important for people to like so yeah, I think it's very important for people to not think of it like their first skill that they join as the end all be all. Like it's okay to not fit into a clique. It's okay to leave the guild and try to find something better for you. Because this is something that I mean, thankfully it worked out for me. Like I do have a lot of my friends from my first guild still, but a lot of people that I know, like they, for example, would join our guild, and they would like me, for example, and I would reach out and try to like make them more comfortable in the guild and stuff like that, and I would become friends with them. But other people within my clique didn't like them, so then they felt excluded. As like you don't win over everybody, so they feel excluded and they leave. But then they feel like they have to stay because it's like they don't want to be seen as like a guild hopper, which is like I feel like it's such a dumb thing. Like, what even is a guild hopper? Like, if you don't like where you're at, you don't like where you're at. No, like that's
I
the way
think
I feel about it.
so. When I think of the term guild hopper, right? I think the specific trait about a guild hopper, outside of the fact that they're jumping between a lot of guilds, is that it's not so much that they don't fit in. I think is that they realize that they're not getting what they want out of the guild, so they're gonna try to find that elsewhere. That's
What,
my
like
impression of what a
attention?
guild hopper is. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's attention, maybe it's a
Mm-hmm.
clout, maybe it's like, oh, like Elite has freaking JP Tamir. I wanna be friends with those guys, and then they join Elite, and then they realize those guys don't even play the game that much, or they're not really that interactive, or like they got their own shit going on that they don't have time to kind of grow these relationships with the person, right? And you're like, okay, well, I tried. I joined Elite because Tamir and JP were in it. Now I find out I can't be friends with him. I'm gone, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And something that let's see, Joe69L is talking about. They were saying that um, people normally join top tier guild when they are a late game. They leave the guild to join others at the end game because they've already progressed with everything. You join Apple to gain experience. You leave Apple to start your own startup company. My issue with that analogy is that guilds are not a company.
No, they have
There
similar
might be
traits, but they're not a
there's
company.
similar traits
Yeah.
that you're recruiting people,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we're not running a business here. It's just a community of people or players, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we might have higher standards of recruiting than other guilds, that isn't so much as to like, it's just a vetting process, right? We're not, I don't run the guild, the juniors do. So it's the juniors that don't want to deal with the fact that they don't want super brand new players because they're not going to be aware of the kind of etiquette in the game, like carry etiquette, or just like it's going to look bad, or it's going to be annoying to deal with someone that's always asking for carries, right? Questions are welcomed, but this is just like I don't know. I think it's just a fair vetting process to be level 255 plus 6K Legion, right? It just means that you're established enough in the game, and now you want to play with people that are like minded or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I could speak on this as like a junior, right? Like the mentality you have and like why you set these requirements. It's not about being elitist. It's not about anything like that. It's just like you reach a point where the people in your guild all have a mutual understanding of each other. Like when you see somebody and they're like, let's say 15k culvert, you can automatically know a lot about them. You know that they've been playing for a while. You know they're strong. You know they're a grinder, whatnot, right? And when you're in a guild full of people like that, you know what to like not do and what to do. And one of those things is like not to like just ask for carries. Like you should like you could do trades. Like trades is really big. Like in the end game community, it's just like anybody want to trade hard lucid hard will, right? For like boss meals, right? Like that's a very like common end game thing to do. And when you let in somebody who's just like, let's say like 10k stat into like Excel. It's just like it's kind of unfair for the Excel guildies because they all like worked so hard to get to that end game point where they could like, you know, do these things that others can't do, and then we just have to like kind of like babysit somebody, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
not fair. Like
It,
uh uh like when you're working in a professional company. I mean, it's not companies, but I'll just go back to that as an example. It's like when you're in a professional environment, it's like you don't want to have to deal with like interns who don't know anything. You just want to like get the work done, right? Like you just want to like get it done. That's it. Like that's the way we see it.
it's basically like a street smart check, you
Mm-hmm.
know. If you're 255 6K Legion, it's like okay, you're probably capable enough to know what to do and not what to do when you're in this environment, I guess. Again, like I don't think I think it's weird to see guilds as a company. That says more about you than the recruitment system and just the way guilds run itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you think of a guild as a company, then it's more of like then your relationship is strictly transactional now,
Mm-hmm.
right? You do the work, you get rewarded. But it's not. It's more than that, right? Guilds is just a bunch of people, humans like you and me, playing the game. The difference is that some of them are juniors, some of them are stronger, some of them are weaker. But at the very end of the day, it's just a community.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've pretty much like talked about like the dynamic of guilds and the reality of guilds. Um, unless you have more talking points about like the dynamic of guilds, I'm ready to move on to like what we think is lacking in the guild content that the game has and what we would like to see.
Yeah. So I mean, just one last thing about guilds. Like, this is just like a reminder for people. Like, if you're out there, you're struggling to join a guild, you're struggling to join a community. Understand that, like you said, Discord's a big part of it. Like, at the end of the day, like, a lot of the game is not even on the game, if that makes sense. Like, a lot of the game is just talking to people on Discord, making friends, and really just try yourself to try to put yourself out there, even if it's something like, um, somebody's talking about Pokemon in the Maplestory Discord or something, and you like Pokemon, like just start talking about it with them. What's the worst that can happen, right? Like, well, they're gonna call you cringe. Who the fuck are you? Like, who cares if they call you that? Then that's not the right community for you. They're just dickheads, right? Like, then just move on. Like, try your best to just put yourself out there because 100%, if you have a community to play this game, it is way more enjoyable than doing it on your own. I'm sorry. You could play this game by yourself if you want, by all means, but the game's a lot better if you do it with people.
Mm-hmm.
So,
For sure.
I mean that's like all I got when it comes to like guilds. Something that we didn't really talk about is like alliances though. Like,
Oh, yeah, we'll get into that. It's down there. It's just something we'll
okay,
talk about
okay,
after.
okay.
Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah, go ahead then. What were we gonna say?
Okay. So the next question is like, what do we think is lacking with guilds? So we kind of
Okay,
already
okay.
touched upon like the dynamic of like joining a guild, what to expect, what happens, the reality of that you're just in a Discord rather than just like in the game, like you were just saying. So some big points that I want to talk about is like there should be a guild shop.
Mhm.
There should definitely be a guild shop. Something similar to Dojo where you climb the floors and you get Dojo points and now you can spend your Dojo shop, right? You can buy the pendant the XP pendant, you can buy the 2x coupons, Mugon soul shards, like basically things that are useful to you, right? A guild shop is like something that should have existed a long time ago.
Yep.
Because now how you gain the currency for a guild shop is your GP capping, or maybe your COVID score gets converted a bit because maybe it's segmented into brackets, or maybe just participation is enough to give you guild points, right? Flag race, the check-in, like having a guild shop, and it would just make so much sense. The currency is like already right there for you to have. The
Mhm.
guild shop could just have like maybe you get to wear a balloon cape, and the balloon has a logo of your guild as just like a way to represent your guild and your guild pride. That would be so sick. It's so simple. It's just in terms of aesthetics. Obviously, you would probably want to expect maybe some 2x coupons in there, maybe some exclusive atmospheric guild buffs, because we have like the ones you get that are distributed like every Monday, right?
Mhm.
Imagine if there's something better than that that you could also stack it with, or maybe you can buy more of them because you get 30 for the week. Maybe you need more than 30,
Yeah, no,
right?
I'd be running out. If you use them for training, you'll run out fast as hell. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So like there's so much opportunity and options with a guild shop. It's so crazy to me that it still doesn't exist,
Yeah.
and that it was like never even like I don't think it was the Nexon has ever commented on it as well. I'm sure there's at least a few like players in KMS that have brought up the idea that we want a guild shop, right?
Yeah.
What guilds right now is just guild skills in a community, I guess. But mainly guilds are objectively of what they provide is the perks and the skills.
Yeah, so the thing about guilds is so much of guilds has just become irrelevant, right? Like GP is completely irrelevant. It wasn't even really relevant back when it was relevant, right? It really didn't matter. It was just a way to just distinguish who's been in the guild long, pretty much. Like, there was no, like, GP doesn't even matter. Now, something that, and if you think about, like, the other two aspects, like, weekly mission points literally don't even matter either. That doesn't mean anything, pretty much. Um, it's literally just GPQ. That's the only thing that matters in guilds. And, once upon a time, flag mattered a lot. And now that's just been reduced to 10 people that get 10 to 1,000 and you're done. Nobody even thinks about flag. Like, I don't even think about flag anymore because I already know, like, the juicers will get 10k and that's it. Like, it's done. And all that matters is GPQ. And some guilds, in, like, an extreme sense, like Excel, for example, like, one of the biggest things we look out for is GPQ because that's, like, the way it weighs the most. Like, it's just, that's what matters. Like, if you can add 20k to our GPQ, you are so high value. Like, everything else pretty much doesn't even matter. Like, it's crazy. And it's so sad because one of the peaks in this game was when flag was so competitive amongst all the guilds. Like, that led to so many interactions between other guilds. Like, I made friends in Epic, made friends in Drowsy, made friends in, like, Savages and whatnot, just because of flag. Literally just because of flag race. Even in, like, people just from, like, the Chinese community and, like, I would have never met them in any situation just because of flag race. And now flag is just nothing. It's something that you just do literally once a week. And there's no RNG element to it. It's already, like, solved. You just it's fully optimized. You just go do flag, you score 1,000, you're done. Nobody can mess you up. There's no lag. There's nothing. Like, it's just, I'm talking as if lag is a good thing, but, like, there's nothing to flag. It's just you go do it. You don't see anybody. Dude, I can't even remember the last time I saw an Epic member, like, at all. Like, back then it was just like you have the lobby where, like, people are talking smack. You have the middle of the race where, like, people can grief each other or, like, random things could happen that makes it interesting. You have post lobby where you see each other. You have, like, there was just so much flag tech. Like back in the day, you could race somebody. It wasn't random. You could race somebody if you entered. As soon as they entered, there was a high chance you would be in their same lobby and same race. So it's like some people would legit hunt each other down to beat them. They would to beat them specifically in flag so that we could win. Like, an example of this is, like, Methane in Epic was, like, he was known to be fast, so we would get our top racer to find him in game and watch when he enters so that we enter and we beat him so that Epic doesn't score higher points. Like, little things like that just make it so much more fun. Like, you could be like, oh my god, that's so toxic. Like, why are you, like, sniping somebody? The thing is, it's like 99% of the people doing flag, we didn't see it as toxic. Yeah, there were that 1% that they, like, hella freaked out and made a big deal out of things. But overall, like, flag just, it honestly brought the game together because it was this one activity that you do 3 times a day, right? Like, generally in Eastern, it'd be like 5-6 p.m. Like, those were, like, the main flag hours. It brought, like, all these guilds together in one place to, like, try and do something together. Now it's literally just nothing. Like, it's just nothing. Like, you just don't, you could enter every 30th minute on the hour, do your race, call it, you're done. Like, it's so sad what flag has become, and everything is just GPQ. Even GPQ has been shriveled down to just a BA. Like, it's just a burst BA. GPQ, at least, like, GPQ before was a good idea, even though it was implemented shit because of how laggy it was. Like, at least it brought the guild together. Being in a call with, like, 100 of your guildies was, like, so crazy. Like, it was just, like, at least everybody on this one day of the week got together and we could all talk to each other. Even if it was for, like, 30 minutes, it was still, like, mad cool because it was just, like, everybody was there. Now, like, even though it was just shit experience, like, everybody would just DC and it was, like, laggy as hell, it was still fun because everybody was DCing and laggy as hell together. Like, everybody was doing it together. That's why it was fun. Even, like, optimizing the rosters and all that stuff was fun. But now it's just, like, it's so much easier. Like, they made the game easier. It's more convenient, but it's way less fun. Like, you just go in, you hit the thing for 2 minutes, you're done for the week. Don't even have to think about it.
Yeah, it's these things that Nexon doesn't know how to value.
Yeah,
They're listening at the complaints, which is great, right? They realize that It's annoying to have to try to organize 200 people to do this thing at this time, right? It was even more annoying in GMS because if two guilds were running at the same time, you guys are both griefing each other.
Oh yeah, we had
we had
guild
a whole ass Discord.
Yeah, we had the guild Discord and spreadsheet so that guilds. I remember that we literally had to track what guilds would run at what time per week, so that nobody would just grief each other. Like actually insane, insane.
It was great. GPQ was great when it went well, but it became a shit show really quick because it is hard to find the optimal time because having participation mattered a lot. So you needed to find this sweet spot of on this date at this hour is when you can get the majority of your guild members to show up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like for Elite, our guild is like there's so many people from Israel in our guild. It's crazy. So there was a point in time where when we were running, all the Israelis were not able to join us. Pretty much. There was only like maybe 2 people. It was either JP or Tamir that were just monsters and wake up at 6 a.m. to do GPQ with us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Every other person was just like, they can't run. And that was just like, it was kind of, I think it was like maybe like 7-30, like 30-70 split, where 30% of them was like Israeli that weren't able to go GPQ because it was like an ungodly hour on a weekday or something, right? And it just kind of like double compounded of how dog shit it was because if there was a guild that ran on time, it didn't matter because if there was another guild that ran late, then they're running into each other for GPQ.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just over. It feels like shit. You spent all this effort to make sure people are in time. You have the juniors making last minute adjustments for people that can't make it, even though they said they could. Or like they're just like scrambling around, like, okay, we put this guy in there and we just try to make it work. Yeah, we need fills. You're just spamming all chat. You're adding people in the Discord, like, yo, we need fills for this party. Who can go?
Yeah, put a Kana in that party. Like, oh my god,
it was. Oh my god, the fact that you brought up Kanas. Bro, Elite had like no Kanas. We were down bad. We had like this little trade deal with the other Ethereal members. We're like, wait, if you guys send over some Kana meals, right, we'll send over our bossing meals, to try to fill up the party. You know what I'm saying? Like, holy fuck. Like we were like Elite Ethereal, we were about that life for GPQ. That was fucking stressful. Like I wasn't even the one organizing now, I was stressed. Right? Yeah. Like I'm sure right now if you ask any of the juniors, they're glad the old GPQ is just fucking gone. Right? It sucks that we don't have like those, those not forced, but like those organized meetings anymore because it was fun to have 18 freaking voice channels filled with 50 people at least. Right?
Yeah.
And it really felt great when, the GPQ is finally over. Everyone's just sitting in their chair waiting to see what the final number is.
Oh yeah, when it gets tallied, and
when everything's getting tallied, right? In Elite, we had this meme called Myro Math because Myro would like fucking fuck up the calculation somehow, and we would get better than what we actually thought, or worse than what we actually thought. Like everyone would be like so hyped that we beat our record last week, or we'd be so hyped that we were able to get the same score again.
Yeah, we used to always just at the end of like whatever waterway, we would just remember the score and we would immediately type it into guild chat and then somebody would add it up. And it was actually pretty accurate if you just did it that way. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with old GPQ was good and bad, but I think it was mainly the bad was like really bad.
Dude, it was so bad.
It was really
like
bad.
It's a 15-minute experience, but it would take like an hour to do. And by the time, like, it would take like an hour to set up, and then it's like the guild master would open the door. He's like, "That's it, guys. I'm opening the door. Like, you have 10 minutes to enter. Like, it's over. I'm sorry. Yeah, make sure you're buffed up outside. If you might not be able to buff up inside, and then it's like you crash inside the waiting room, and it's like, oh my god, you gotta wait for this guy to come in, or
you
else
gotta summon your familiars.
Yeah,
don't forget fams.
Oh my god, you gotta remove your pets and turn them back on inside.
Oh my, because they don't auto buff or whatever, right?
Yeah, because they didn't. Yeah, they didn't auto buff, so you had to turn them back on. And then it's like if somebody DCs, you can't make it to like stage 6 of GPQ because you need at least.
Oh
like,
my
people
god,
in the
that
waterway.
Just triggered. That was so.
It's so shit.
Oh
it's
my god.
Shit.
No.
You
Okay.
put all the Night Lords in one door because they're gonna be laggy as hell. None of them could use marks because it'd be too laggy. No Night Lords could use marks. You put all the 4-minute classes in one door. It's like, dude, GPQ was so funny, bro. Like,
Yeah.
actually, like, sanctioned people off. Like, it's so dumb. Jagstorm, yeah. Why don't you better not fucking use Jagstorm? Kanas would be laggy as hell, shitting out like 100 circles, doing like 1 trillion BA or something.
Timing
One
Yorozu.
quadrillion BA.
Oh
my god,
my
Yorozu! Oh my god.
Oh my god.
You have a Bucker or Phantom in the party using Time Leap so you could use Yorozu again. Bro, Yorozu was crazy. Yorozu was actually insane. We would have a list of the people in the door. Like, you use Yorozu, then use it, then you use it, then you use it, and then Time Leap, and then you do it again. Dude. Oh my god. And it's
then after the Time Leap, you had a 0 that binds the boss for like 25 seconds again.
Yeah. And it's like,
holy
Yorozu wouldn't even go off sometimes because it's too laggy. Like, it's like, I pressed it, it's not going off. Like, what do you want from me? Okay, then you have to like bind it again after it changes its stage, like with Kanabine and all the shit. Like, oh my god, bro, GPQ was like so crazy how sweaty it was, but it was fun. It was fun though. That's the important. It was fun though. It was stressful, but it was fun.
Yeah. I'm so glad it's gone, but it was fun.
Yeah, facts actually.
All right, so we talked about guild shops.
Guilds? Yeah. We
talk about guild shops.
Okay.
What other content do you think we need from guilds? Because I'm thinking like there should be something where the members kind of interact with each other.
Oh, I was just gonna say there needs to be something that incentivizes you to be with your guildies. For example, this might be a bit of an extreme case, but let's say you're in a party of 6 and it's all guildies. You get like a buff. Because it's all guildies, like you get like a special guild buff unlocked because it's all guildies in your party. Or let's say you find your guildie in town and you fame them, you get like some special buff because it's your guildie, like something like that, like something that incentivizes you like to actually be around your guildies versus like you literally like never see your guildies sometimes because it's just like, why would you? Like the only time you see them is like at HQ. And then even HQ should be a thing. Like there should be a guild HQ that you get benefits of actually going there.
The housing system could have been that.
Yeah, it could have.
Right, we got that recently.
Guild house. Yeah.
A guild house would be sick because then that's like
I have my own room.
you have members that can contribute furniture now.
Oh my god! Imagine, yeah, contribute furniture to the guild, donate furniture to the guild house. That would be crazy.
That would be pretty sick.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
And then like you could visit other guilds' houses too if you wanted to, like.
Yeah, then you could like mess with them. No, I'm kidding.
That's
creep other guild houses, like throw eggs on it or something.
That'd be, you know how like right now with the Starlight Symphony system, right? Where if you go to the event map, there's like the atmospheric thing.
Yeah,
it'd be cool if we had that for like a guild HQ. You know, like every 30 minutes is just the guild atmospheric buff that you would get, like the purple box buff in your use tab when you claim it. Imagine it's just that, or maybe it's a little bit stronger or something.
Yeah,
that'd be sick, right? Like,
There's
this isn't like groundbreaking ideas. It's just ideas that haven't happened.
Honestly, these are like bare minimum, like simple ass features that we should have already had. Like that's the craziest part of it. This is just like normal ass game features.
It's so crazy because Maplestory has had the guild system forever now, man. Forever. And also, like, I mean, we used to have guild PQ, like the actual guild PQ, where you had to have like a different classes so that they can kill the gargoyles from different heights and stuff, and then you had to sack one person to Murgoth in order to summon him in something. Like that was sick. That would not force you, but that was something you could do directly with your guildmates that required guildmates. That would have been sick, right? But I don't know what they would provide. Like maybe like a monster part kind of thing with the guild would be interesting.
Yeah, interesting. Something like that.
But like not a requirement. You know what I mean? Like it shouldn't feel like a requirement, but it should be like an option you have to hang out with your guildmate.
Yeah, I mean options are never bad. Like we were saying, like it's never bad to have options.
Mm-hmm.
Like instead of having all these resources in the game with these random ass maps that nobody goes to, like fucking, I don't know, like, dude, like just think of like these random ass Ariant maps. Like delete that and like use those resources to like make a guild mini game or something. Like I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
like there's no excuse. You know what I mean? Like if they pull the excuse of like, oh, there's only like so many resources we can have. Like there's no excuse. Like I'm sorry. Like it's just nothing.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think the next big question to ask, since we don't really there's not really too much other content that we would want from guilds, right? Like guild
Mhm.
shop, and then maybe like some kind of party quest or something, or guild HQ as well. That would be nice. The
Yep.
next biggest question is like, do we think that Culvert should be like the thing that defines the number one guild? Like, should there be other leaderboards that a guild can like compete in to otherwise define them as a top guild in this category, right? Because right now it's like Culvert. If you have the highest Culvert score as a guild, you're just automatically number one,
Mhm.
right? But there's no other like way to categorize it. There's no other thing to compete in to be number one guild that is officially provided by the game, right? Imagine
Mhm.
if we had leaderboards, but for bosses and party quests, right? If you there's a leaderboard section for just a random 6-man or random 4-man party, a section for guild only party, and then a section for solo,
Yep.
right? These leaderboards for every boss and for every PQ. Because there's always something, there's something like that already almost, right? You have Dojo, that's a leaderboard, right?
Yep.
For an individual. You have what's that thing called? The Ghost Park thing
Yep.
that is
Ghost
an
Park.
individual leaderboard. There's also Crossworld PQ,
Yep.
right? The fastest clear for that week or something or for a month. I think there should be more leaderboards in the game that kind of. Oh yeah, there's Oz leaderboard as well. Other leaderboards that involve the game's content, and in a way, we've already seen Nexon kind of utilized old content and recycled it and kind of presented it as new content. So what I mean by that is they brought back Monster Park Extreme. I don't even remember why they removed it. I know it used to exist, but now it's different. They brought it back.
Mhm.
And with the extreme mode for Monster Park, they also unlocked the extreme difficulty for Black Mage and Saren. Now, we're not going to go too deep into them. Like, we can always talk about it like in a different podcast. But for the purpose of just keeping it like, within the realm of this topic, those extreme game modes are pretty much just recycled content. It doesn't
Mhm.
really provide anything too new about those bosses, right?
Yep.
So obviously, Nexon is in the market or interest of recycling content that used to matter. So if they were to add leaderboards to boss solos or party clears, then they can compete for the fastest clear. That's a new leaderboard. That's another way for you to separate this guild from that guild, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So the thing. Yeah. 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 There should be another way than just GPQ. And I mean, there used to be with Flag. Like Flag used to be another way that like a guild could be relevant. For example, like what's a weak ass guild that was good at Flag? I don't know, but there were guilds that were like that. Where it's like they weren't strong, but they're really good at Flag, so they could like also still get pretty good guild skills. But now even that's just gone. Like they need to like minimum bring back Flag what it used to be, or make it just a little bit better somehow. And like you said, like add some sort of leaderboard, even if it's like some sort of thing that some sort of boss that the whole world can hit, and like your damage on that just as an entire guild is like can like be seen on that or something like that. I don't know. Or like some sort of like mini game or some sort of like let's say like boss clears count towards like your GP, your guild skills. Like let's say like your guild cleared H Damien 100 times this week, right? Like
Mm.
you get a certain amount of points for your guild, or your guild cleared CRA like 500 times. Like I don't know, like something crazy like that, right? Like those things should matter as well, instead of just whole guild full of Night Lords scoring 20k GPQ. Like 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 that's the best guild technically, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like dumb, right? It's just dumb as hell. So it's too cut and dry.
420 brought up something interesting. Imagine if there was a ranking for Legion raid and guild. I'm guessing that means like highest average level or like highest total level of a guild.
Yeah, you could do that, or like you could do like Guild Star Force, I guess.
But like that's
It's
that's
like a
like the
little weird
least
though.
interesting way. Yeah, it's the
Yeah, it's
least
like
interesting way of
boring.
going about it. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's kind of the same thing. Like it's just you want strong people. That's it. Like
Yeah.
you would just have a guild full of DBs because you have a 22 Katara, right? Like that's the main.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Or just
So,
explore mage or even shadower 20
yeah.
star secondaries. You would only recruit people with the badge.
True. 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 Badge only guild. True.
Damn.
Honestly, I like it. I like it. Now that I think about it, I like the idea. Badge only.
Holy. All right. So the next big topic is basically just the same thing we talked about with guilds, but except with alliances.
Yeah.
Alliances don't do shit right now,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they never have done shit.
Oh yeah.
Like if we were to think back about like the era that I remember about reboot is the 1738 era, right? You got beaters, you got elite. I think Spring was in there as well as like this big alliance. Like, it didn't really mean anything. It was just a weird ass flex that you got these top guilds huddle up together. That's it. Like I don't think alliance has ever mattered in the game, ever.
Yeah, I mean, we come from two different ends of the spectrum actually. You're in a big alliance with Elite, Bounce, Drowsy, and the other one. And then
Thrill, man.
Thrill. Yeah, Thrill.
Thrill.
Yeah, Thrill, whatever. Uh, and then I'm in Excel where it's literally just us. There's nobody else. So it's like interesting how it seems like on paper a guild that's in an alliance should have more benefit than a guild that's not an alliance. But at the end of the day, like, Excel has more guild skills because it's just GPQ's all that matters. Like, I feel like guilds that have an alliance should have some sort of advantage. Like, the only advantage you have in an alliance is like you just have a bigger network. And the thing is, like, with networking is like you don't even need an alliance to have a network. Like, you could just go talk to people. Like, it's so weird. Like, alliance just has so little value for no reason. Like, what's the point?
It's hard because I don't think Nexon will ever actually release alliance content because it's already messy to do guild content, right?
Oh yeah.
We saw that with the old Culvert, even with the new Culvert and Flag. It's just kind of really outdated and poorly handled. So for them to try to do alliance content, I couldn't even begin to think about what would be different. What would be different about it, other than the fact that there's multiple guilds involved now, right? The one idea that I had is if the Nexon provided content where guilds within the alliance can compete with each other over something, right? So to loosely say, like if Nexon added like a spring festival kind of thing for alliances where Elite and Bounce and Thrill and Drowsy will compete with each other over some like kind of competitiveness, right? Maybe fastest clear and H will, like, these are like really shit ideas, but the general idea is that some way for these guilds to compete with each other, right? That was an idea that I thought of, like some kind of spring festival to compete with each other in, right?
Yeah. I love how the first thing you said was fastest clear to H will. Minimum 11 minutes, no matter
exactly.
Dumbass
like,
boss, man. Like,
well, what can you do, right? Like, anything, like, it just goes to show that alliances just don't do shit at all. I don't even know if Nexon realizes. I think Nexon realizes that there's just nothing to do with alliances.
The thing is, like, I guess you can make the argument of, like, there's no reason not to be in a guild with an alliance, because at least, like, there's a bigger Discord you could join, right? Like, there's probably a higher chance that you'll make friends because there's just more people. Like, that's all it is. There's more people you could learn from. Like, again, XL, for example. I don't think we have a single Corsair in our guild, right? So if somebody wants to learn about Corsair, it's like, like you're kind of learning from like secondhand experience from guildies, not really like a Corsair main in the guild, besides Phil, because I know he's gonna say something. But But if you're like an Ethereal Alliance, it's like I'm sure there's some Corsair in some of the guilds, somewhere, right? Like you could reach out to, like they have direct access to. So there's like that benefit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the there's only one perk that I can think of having alliance, and I've only ever been in one alliance, right? So I can't say this is true for every alliance, but specifically the Ethereal Alliance, the only one thing that makes sense is the fact that the alliance has alliance rules. So essentially, what that means is that Elite, Drowsy, Bounce, Thrill, they all have like their own rules within the guild. But because they're part of the same alliance, now there's alliance rules that every guild and every member in the alliance has to abide by, right? So it's kind of like this umbrella that they all fall under, right? But that's like the only thing, right? The alliance just means that this is the golden standard that each person is expected to follow if you're in the alliance and you're in this guild. That's about it. Other than that, like these rules are just self-imposed.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to bring up the drama in the past, but it is what it is. But that's just how it is with how Ethereal utilized the idea of an alliance to have these underlying rules that everyone follows, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's just how it is. Like alliance can choose to make their own rules, and it is what it is. So it's kind of like federal law and state law, but whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
I know what that means, even though I'm Canadian.
Honestly, true. Probably Americans don't know what that means, so
Okay.
yeah, like I wouldn't be surprised. So,
I'm sure we can probably move on to the
yeah.
next
I mean,
topic.
alliance is a pretty short topic. Yeah, we could just
Yeah.
move on to. So this is our final big overarching topic for this podcast,
Yep.
and this is probably a big one that people are like very opinionated on. So
Okay. Before we get into this, can we take like a 1 or 2 minute breather?
yeah.
Is everyone cool with this? I'm talking about chat too. You guys want
That's fine.
to get up and stretch a little bit?
I'm gonna go get water. Yep.
Yeah, I need to like
Forced
stretch my
breather.
legs real quick.
Dude,
All right, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. We'll be back
comes
at
back second.
fuck it 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Fuck it. 10 XX40. We'll be back. Okay. We good? We ready to move on?
Yeah.
All right. This is like we said earlier. The last topic we'll be covering today is the state of GMS after Kishin removal, the totem meta, as well as 40 channels now in reboot.
Yep.
So, before we go any deeper in this comment or this topic, something that we need to put out there is that the overall state of the game and progression right now is overall better.
Yes.
Yes. Like this is like, it can be up for discussion, but it is factual that it is just overall better now.
Yep. I agree.
All right. So the first question that we're going to present to you guys and try to answer it is, what was the meta before these changes? So before Kishin got removed, even like before we had 40 channels, I guess we could even say before we had 30 channels too if we wanted to. And like totems also existed when Kishin was still around too. So if you want to start us off with what was the meta before these changes?
Yeah, so I feel like also before I start, I feel like I'm in a very unique position here because I started the game a long time ago, or I started progressing seriously a long time ago, over 4 years ago, like around when 25 stars came out. And I experienced a meta and a progression back then, and I'm experiencing a completely different progression now, where it really feels like two different games. And back then, I'm talking like a really long time ago. I'm not just talking about a bit before Kish got removed. I'm talking, there's different eras to this, right? Like there's the era where Kish was OP as hell, where you could like stack Kish, you could like keyweight it, you could hold it down. You don't have to like, there was no cooldown on Kish. You know what I'm talking about, like Spanish Kish, like when it was super, super good. And the meta with that was like, bye-bye farmers. You could get the ball rolling immediately at 150. You could, you could Spanish farm in like Arcana at like D Cup 1. And then that transitioned into like nerfed Kish, where it's like, yeah, there's no cooldown on it, but it's not as good, and there's no Spanish anymore. So that was like, it's still a really good version of Kish, and the farmer and the meta was still like, Suicide Kana level 247, stay in Arcana, and like that's what you did all the time. And then it turned into, now there's no more suiciding, and from the Neo patch, and Kanas were still the best farmer. Like you would still, everybody still had a Kana, but this time people just made multiple Kanas because when they would overlevel their area, they would just make another one. And this game was just so dependent on Kana to progress. Like everything was just, you had to make a Kana farmer. If you didn't make a Kana farmer, you're playing at such a slower rate than everybody else that it just became so important. And now with Kish removal in its entirety, like there's just so many different. There's just like the way you progress is just completely different now. It's like insane. And that was the meta back then, where Kana was king. If you look at 99% of endgame players now, they have a high level Kana on their account. Like they just do.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how it is.
So that explains like what the meta was back then, and like now to explain like why it was meta. So
Yeah.
as Hamza mentioned, right? Because Kana was a really good mobber. It was not the best mobber, but it was a really good mobber. It also provided Kishin, right? So now you're on a single PC setup. Your main mission with this Kana farmer is to get as much resources as you can, and this was like the most efficient and fastest way to do it. Now, obviously there were people that went the extra mile and also had the privilege of a second computer.
Yep.
Right. So those people that went the extra mile made a second account, developed their own Kana, leveled it up so that it could be in the same area as their main character. So if your main was a Lumi, if it was a Night Lord, or maybe it was even DB, you now have the option of leveling your main with Kishin spawn enhancement, right? And this was during the era where, like Hamza said earlier, you didn't have to manage Kishin. You just put a freaking rock on your second computer and it would just keep using it. Maybe you have to move the character every now and then, but it was very low maintenance. Obviously there were people that got bans, but those people were like a combination of unlucky and also they were just kind of really abusing the fact that you just keep waiting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like 20-hour keep waiting, like world, So those were like the two metas, right? You had single PC setup and two PC setup, right?
Most people did both though. Like most people had a Kana farmer and they had a Kish removal. Like
because then they would
had both. Yeah,
they would do meso coupons on their main and on their Kana.
Yeah,
basically. So there was like a really efficient way to do it. Obviously, not everyone had the option of second PC, and it was super sweaty and just overall like really unhealthy for the game. It was not. But that was the reason why it was meta to have a Kana farmer, because it had the spawn enhancement skill. Now, obviously, this meta existed before and after totems were finally introduced.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is like, so what did people do when totems were introduced? Well, the people that didn't have a second PC now had access to spawn enhancement on their main. So they were limited to 15 totems, I think. Like a max of 15 purchasable ones, right?
Yeah. 17 with the daily gift, but yeah.
I don't think the daily gift was until later, but
okay, they didn't add them till later. Okay,
yeah. Either way, let's just say 17 for the sake of just consistency. Just 17 totems, and that's like 34 hours or something.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
That's all you had on your main, and then after that, you did your totems for the month. Now your option is just farming on your Kana. That's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That was the way to progress your main. Now, today, right? Like the meta today is a lot different. We no longer have this spawn enhancement thing. Like the people that had Kishin and totems, they just use totems on their main and that's it. And then they just farm. It's like now there's no more Kishin. All Kishin does is just gives you 10% XP.
Yep. For the Kana.
For the Kana. So there's no second PC per se. You could, but we'll get into that. But the meta now is just the 15 totems from the Maplestory reward shop, the 2 from the Fairy Bros calendar. That's it. You can't get any more than that.
Mm-hmm.
However, you can get more if you have a second computer. Now your second computer can also have a second account. And on that second account, you do your bosses, you do your monster collection, you collect as much RP as you can, and that is your access to another 17 more totems if you wanted to sweat that hard.
Yep.
So that's 60 plus hours of totems. but it's a lot of work to do it. It's more work on the second account than it is on your first account.
Yep, exactly.
So 2 PC meta isn't out of the question. In fact, it now promotes multiple
not
PC
out of
meta.
the question at all. In
or
fact,
not multiple account meta. Sorry.
no, in fact, it's worse. Low key, it's worse because, I mean, whether you want to believe it or not, like, people, at the end game, like, people have friends and they do each other favors with their totems if they're not playing. So, like, you could just rack up a lot of totems that way, and that's just how it is now. Like, the totems, the enhancers, like, so long as some sort of enhancer exists, there's gonna be a way to abuse it. Like, there's no other way around it. Like, as long as, like, people have a way to get them, like, they're gonna get them, like, no matter what. But the thing about totems and pre-Kish nerf is it only alleviated the second PC a little bit, because you could just, like, totem your main. But now post Kish deletion, the game is still perfectly able to progress without totems at all, which is a good thing. Like a lot has changed. It's not so dependent on just putting in 1,000 hours of farming every month or something.
So essentially, the meta now is just totems. Totems on your main, and whatever totems you can get from friends or second PC, that's about it. Right? Now, obviously spawn enhancers still exist, and we're still talking about reboot here. Now we're going to be talking about, like, who does this affect? So the people that were sweaty, right, made a second account for Kishin, and now they have the second account. It's not that a second account is useless now. It can generate RP and also provide you totems now, right? The meta now is just you just kind of use whatever totems you can, and if you have the privilege to play more than the totems that you have, you would just go to Maplestory big and just do no totem farming. Right? And you guys, if you guys watch Hamza, like, you've seen his Shadower. He's done a little bit of totem farming before, and Shadower is just nuts at doing that. Other classes can do it too, but Shadower is just hands down designed to be a farmer. If you guys are in the Korean scene, like, they were doing the Shadower meta long before like Reboot picked up on it.
Yeah.
Like they even have auto steal gloves in their Shadowers, so that they can auto steal more Meso bag drops and droplets as well, right? But like they like optimize the fuck out of that shit in Korea. Like, they go hard on Shadower farming, and it's so crazy to me that I thought that with the remaster, Shadow was going to lose their 20% Meso passive, but it didn't. And that's crazy.
I know, right? Shad's just like, Shad to the moon, bro. Like, because if they're not going to remove it, then they're not going to remove it, bro. Like, Shad will always have that advantage. Always.
Shad's just got it. They just got it. So, what I wanted to bring up now is the fact that spawn enhancements still exist in the game. It's always going to exist in Reg server because of Frenzy. Up until maps are 300 plus, right? But it's basically still going to exist for the first 300 levels, right? So someone in chat suggested that, why don't they just make the base spawn rate higher? So that's always like it's totems, right? Nexon's not going to do that. Let me explain it to you why, right? Obviously, it's this what I'm talking about to bring up. It has been discussed to the end of the earth about the Korean grind culture versus the NA grind culture, the Western grind culture, right? Like, the people in Korea go hard. They go fucking hard when they play video games. The MMOs, the grindy MMOs, they are like, it's nothing to them. They have that high stress tolerance to just keep doing it every single day for multiple hours. Right. Nexon NA, despite the fact that it seemed like they're a company that doesn't know what they're doing, they do know what they're doing. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in business anymore. So they understand that the players from the Western market aren't the same players that are playing the game in the Korean market. So what do? They know that our tolerance to grinding isn't going to be on the same tolerance as the Korean players in South Korea. So they introduce totems. They introduce Kishin. Right? Your progression is faster now. You are more likely to continue playing the game compared to the Korean players that don't have it at all. Right? They have a higher tolerance to just keep grinding it and keep, the stress level of stress they can handle is just much higher on average. right? So that is why totems exist. That is why Nexon is just not going to make it permanently totemed on maps. It wouldn't make sense. They also still want you to play the game, right? They wanted to speed up progression enough to keep players interested in the NA market, but not enough that they're progressing too fast. And that's the thing. Reboot was progressing too fast.
Yeah.
We were progressing too fast. Think about it this way: when familiars came out and people abused junior boogies and fairies, those people that were on top of that shit,
I would never.
those people that were on top of that, they all have 90% boss within like the first week instantly. Yep. All you new guys that are farming like familiars now in Morass and such, you guys are still playing catch up, and some of you guys don't even have 90 boss yet. But those guys, myself included, that were farming those junior boogies with like before like Nexon realized what was going on, like we had like a huge head start. It was ridiculous.
I'm sad they nerfed it. I'm sad they nerfed it from 40 to 30. They used to be 40 boss.
Yeah, they used to be 40 boss
120 boss fams.
Exactly.
Fuck, man.
Unique familiars were a lot better too before they nerfed it, right? Yeah. But like basically like people that were on top of that got like really ahead for a long time. Like I'm still ahead of people for something I did like maybe over a year ago.
No, it's been even longer. That's the crazy.
More than a year ago, right?
It's been over 2 years ago. Can you believe that?
That's
it's been that long. Yeah.
I'm still using 2 junior boogies.
Yeah.
And I'm still using them because I haven't found anything better with uniques. Right?
Yeah.
So they realized that familiar. I don't know what they were thinking of familiar. Right? It makes sense. It makes sense in reg server because it's another way for the players to gamble on.
Yeah.
Right? For people to swipe their credit cards and gamble more on. But for reboot, like, it kind of didn't make sense in a way that it exists because it's in reboot. Reboot exists because you can farm for cubes, right? Which is something you would normally have to pay for in reg server. But we don't have red cards.
Yeah.
Right. Red cards are not any different than cubes, but I think the sole reason why we don't have red cards is because reboot would just be way too strong and we would progress way too fast.
A little bit.
No, so
that's essentially it.
The issue, it's not even FAMs. The FAM system is fine in reboot. It's fine to have a way to do it free to play by organically grinding the cards and everything. Mm-hmm. Because you could kind of do the same thing with cubes. You could like get master craftsmen from bosses and Meister cubes and all that stuff. Like technically you could do that, but it's just slow as hell. The issue is that we don't have a way to spend mesos to cube our fams. That's the issue. Like that's the biggest problem. Like that just doesn't make sense in reboot. Like reboot, that's the point. Like you could grind, spend your mesos, and get something. They even did it for droplets. Droplets, which are like notoriously like rare to get, you could straight up buy them in reboot. We can't even buy nodes yet, and we can't even get. It doesn't even have to be a red card. Like you could just stay at unique, or like, you could even do it like at a minimum. Like these fam cubes only work on epic fams, for example, so that everybody at least has a baseline of like you could get epic fams done. And if you choose to go for unique, then it's like, okay, like that's really difficult and that's the challenge. But at least like, you know, everybody has a baseline on epics, right? Like like the fact that we just have nothing, like an occult cube for like fams that only work on epic, like that. Exactly.
Yeah. And like just so we're going a little bit off topic here, but the reason why we got to where we are in this conversation is that we're explaining why totems and spawn enhancement even exist in NA, and it's just because the different cultures between South Korea and the other countries that play JMS. We just not that we don't have the same tolerance for grinding, so this was Nexon NA's way to like kind of ease us into that grindiness that Maplestory is.
Yeah,
it makes us feel good that we're getting more for our time, versus when we don't do it on totems, right?
Mm-hmm. And the like thing is, I'll go ahead.
No, go.
Oh yeah, the thing is, I feel like they're slowly trying to transition us into like no spawn enhancements because, there was Kish gets nerfed twice and then gets deleted, so now we're in a position where it's like there's still spawn enhancements, but it's not as relevant as before. It's not as like accessible as before. Like now it's like you're kind of limited by totems. I feel like eventually like totems will get cut out slowly as well, so that it'll also be kind of like KMS. But on the flip side, which leads into another conversation we can have on why the game is still overall easier to progress now, even though we don't have Kishin, because a lot of people think that with Kish that was the easiest point to progress. Even without totems, all the other systems in the game got a lot easier. Like besides nodes, arcanes drop so often. Droplets you can buy them and get from events. Starforce cost is reduced and the events are better. Events give you way more items in event shops nowadays than they do before. Flames drop. You could get like so many E-flames from events. Like what this event just right now in Destiny, you could get like 60 E-flames or something like that. Like that's like every event you get mad E-flames. You get so many bonk potions from events for Legion now. There's like celestial type events now or like Night Troop where like all these events are just like they empower you so much to progress faster, and it more than makes up for not having Kish or totems anymore. So overall the progression is still way easier now than it was before.
There's also like with Kishin Remove now, there's no longer like this advice that people give you that you should make a kana and make farm on it. You know, now like the advice now is just mainly about Legion and bossing meal, right?
Oh yeah.
Like I'm sure there's so many people that got FOMO about not having a kana farmer that the FOMO is the reason why they stopped playing.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I
felt like they weren't being
because of that.
Yeah, they feel like they weren't min-maxing because their friends or the friends they made they had kana farmers and they were progressing way faster than them, leveling faster than them, getting more meso, and they just felt like if they didn't do this, then they can't keep up with their friends, and then they realize they don't like the game anymore. They realize they're playing kana, they're not playing their main. They realize they're playing farm meso. Like you said the other day, you realize you're playing side path. You're not playing Maplestory. Yeah, you're playing side path.
Because right? I fully realized that's what the game became. Like I would log in every single day, 8 to 10 hours, and farm at side path. I'm not playing Maple. I'm playing side path. That's what I'm playing every single day for months. Like that's the game. So that's what it became. Now it's just like now there's options. Like you could progress in so many other ways, and it's just so much better this way.
Yeah, and it's like. It's kind of like a community thing, a community mentality, mob mentality kind of thing about min-maxing. Like this culture of min-maxing is just really prevalent in a lot of games now. Like people don't realize that you play games for fun, and people mix up the fact that min-maxing equals fun, right? They know that if you're stronger, or as you progress your character, you can start fighting more bosses, more difficult bosses as you level up. You unlock more content. Yeah, that's fine. You can do that without min-maxing. You can do that without being super efficient. Obviously, having efficiency means you get to do it faster or earlier. But people kind of get caught up in that mentality that they kind of forget that you're supposed to have fun while you're doing it too. I feel like now that Kishin is gone, like the spawn enhancement for Kishin is gone, I'm a lot more relaxed with the game.
Yeah, true.
Like I don't feel like I need because the option's not there anymore. I don't feel like I don't need to farm on my kana anymore. My kana's 272 from farming, and it was like 247 for the longest time when suicide was still a thing.
Your kana might be higher level than your main if it never.
Yeah, probably. It probably would have been higher level, right?
Yeah.
So my kana is just dead. Like I just don't even touch it anymore. Even if it wasn't for the fact that you got nerfed, I probably still wouldn't touch it. I really hated the fact that a kana farmer was just so important to the meta, right? Like I stuck up with it because for whatever reason I had the tolerance to just do it, to just farm on kana. But I really had the most fun when I was progressing in my main.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm an explorer thief. I started out as dual blade, and then I realized I want to do more in this game. And when I realized I wanted to do that, I swapped to Night Lord. I got the 250s of Night Lord. I did all my nodes, farmed all my nodes. I used the money I got as a Night Lord to fund my kana farmer, so that my Kana farmer could start giving me income. And when that was finally established, I could switch my Night Lord to dual blade. And in my head, I'm like, this is it. This is the way I can have the most fun. Now I can play a class I like to play. I get to play my main, and when I feel like I need to get meso, that's when I go on my Kana. What ended up happening was I spent like 90% of my time on my Kana, and I was no longer playing my dual blade.
Yeah.
At the very least, eventually it paid off. Kind of paid off. It meant I could start soloing Hard Lotus, Hard Damien. I could start participating Hard Lucid parties and whatnot. And like the being able to do that content kind of like help alleviate the stress of just having a Kana farm, right? Eventually, like I had to like take a break from the game because it just wasn't fun. I was really too bummed out and like super FOMO'd out about the Kana meta. It like killed the game for me.
Yeah. No, I feel you. And one of those things you were talking about, like to piggyback off of it, the aspect of fun on this game, right? So I get this a lot on my stream. So the thing about efficiency, the hyper efficiency attitude never goes away. It just kind of changes into another aspect of the game, where like before it used to just be hyper efficiency on Kana. How many mobs per hour can you kill? What are your rates? Whatnot. Now a question that I get asked a lot is, what's the most efficient boss mule to make? Because boss mules are, that's like a very efficient way to make money in this game now, with the crystal buff. And I always find that question so weird and the answer I always give is just like a class that you won't regret logging onto, because it's like, if you make a boss mule and you hate that class, even if it's good, let's use DB as an example. DB is a pretty good boss mule. If you hate playing DB, then you're not gonna like bossing on it. You're not gonna want to play it and make money on it. You're just gonna be miserable. It's the same thing as people who Kana farmed. A lot of people who Kana farmed, they didn't like Kana farming, but they liked making money. So it's like you have to like sacrifice what you like, to get something else that you do like. And it's the same thing with boss builds. It's the same attitude. It's just like, I'm sacrificing my enjoyment of playing this character. I don't want to play DB, but I like making money, so I'm gonna make a DB. And it's just like, it's so dumb. Like, it's just like, just make a class that you like playing. And thankfully, what's good about Reboot getting the final damage change and stuff like that is pretty much any class is a good boss mule. If it's not as harsh as Kana, whereas Kana would like had Kish, and like any other farmer you make, you would still need a Kish mule. Like at the end of the day, like it would just be more work because you'd have to make a Kish mule on a separate computer. Now at least like with boss mules, like you can kind of just make whatever you want, which is still a really good thing. You can progress pretty fast that way as well.
Yep. So the next talking point I wanted to talk about was like the missed opportunity that Nexon had with just totems in general, right? Obviously, I think it makes sense that Kishin should be removed, right? Obviously, there were a lot of suggestions that the community came up with. Was we should have a link skill that is basically Kishin. We should have a nodestone skill that's basically like Kishin. But that just means that your access to it is just way too easy or way too high. Overall, Nexon didn't want you to have 100% in spawn enhancement all the time. For a long time, they thought that because of spawn enhancement, it is the reason why server performance was bad. That's not true. They confirmed that wasn't true.
It's not true.
Not too long ago. Yeah, it's not true.
Do you remember when every map was spawn enhanced? That like couple weeks where it was bugged.
Yep.
Honestly, the servers were better. The low key they were more stable. Like, it has nothing to do with server stability. Nothing.
So what I wanted to bring up was the fact that the way they go about totems could have been a lot better. So right here, I'm about to post it in chat. This was the memo that totems got nerfed or introduced. I'm pretty sure this is the first one they got introduced. The Fury totem, the white and red one, where it was 2k Maple reward points. You can buy 15 times a month in the RP shop, in Cash Shop, right?
Yep.
Their words were, in the Maple reward point shop, we plan to offer the Fury Totem coupon for 2,000 Maple Reward points with a limited quantity purchase of amount of 15 times a month. In addition, we plan to introduce this item to various event rewards in the future. For this summer, we plan to allow players to earn 2 additional Fury Totem coupons in the upcoming Step Up event, as well as 1 additional Fury Totem coupon in our upcoming summer coin shop. We plan to introduce this item in various event rewards in the future. Now, I actually did some counting to see how many Fury Totems did we actually get that Nexon said that they would do, right? So, not including the 15 you could buy and whatnot, I counted that we only actually ever got 5 extra Fury Totems.
Crazy. 5.
5. And this was back when the Fairy Bros calendar wasn't revamped yet. When it got revamped, that was when they added totems to the thing, right? But this they didn't have this yet in the Fairy Bros calendar. So, this is what I meant by missed opportunity. Imagine if all these event shops we've had up until this point, there was totems that you could buy in the event shop.
Imagine. Oh my god.
Like, why would you not buy them? You would no longer be worried about buying nodes from that shop.
Yep.
You would buy the totems instead, because if you bought the totem, that means you get nodes while you're training, while you get an extra mesa, right? After you exhausted whatever amount they give you, then you could consider buying the node, right? But this is what I mean, like, missed opportunity. If you included the event shop to have totems, that means people are going to be likely to coin cap. They'll log on every day because they know they can get a reward, like a totem, right? And right now in the event shop, there's always 2 XP coupons you can buy, and it resets daily, right? Imagine if that was totems instead.
Yeah, imagine
you got 1 totem from the event shop every day that you could buy.
Imagine how much better people could progress if events actually gave you a totem. You could just get like your daily totem.
This would be a lot. People would be a lot more comfortable with just playing any amount of hours a day, because they know that they're only giving up coins from the event shop to buy a totem. Maybe they only get to, use the totem for an hour. Whatever. You had 1 hour of totem you wouldn't have ever had anyways. Right?
Mm-hmm. And
you feel less bad about not being efficient with it. You should be more happy with the fact that it was an option that you had.
The crazy thing is, this isn't even our idea. Like, this is something that they suggested that they would put totems in the event shop, or like, this is something great. They just didn't follow through with this. And Dragonhack saying in chat, that would devalue other rewards like nodes. No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't devalue anything. It would just allow you to also get you just buy more things. Like, you just have more to buy. It wouldn't devalue anything else. You could still get the nodes if you want.
Mm-hmm. It's, again, having options is always good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, obviously, Nexon would have an idea of how many they want to give out. Like, maybe they don't want to do 1 daily totem. Maybe they only want to make it so you can only also buy 15, right? Mm-hmm. That means you would have 60 potential hours a month of totems, from like 15 from the event shop, 15 from the reward point shop, and an additional 2 more from the calendar.
Yeah.
Like, this is honestly, like, I was very happy when I saw them release this memo back then. Like, this was back in 2019. This was like over 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was like, nice. That means we can expect more totems in event shops. I don't have to worry about farming my Kana. I can start progressing my main instead with these totems. But the Nexon just didn't follow through, or like follow through completely. They just kind of they just gave us 5 extra Fury totems, and that was it. We never got it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't the first time Nexon has done this, right? You guys remember when Phantom Forest got revamped and it came out, and the items got data mined. We saw that there was potential for these items to be better than the Superior Golok set, because the 5 set effect gave 5% crit damage or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it came to live, it became 5% crit rate instead. Like, everyone just stopped doing it. Phantom Force was like sick content you could do with your friends. Like, it was fun to just hunt down the E-boss of that Like there was so it's crazy because they put so much work into it. The artwork for Phantom Forest is beautiful.
It is. It is. If I don't know if anybody's been there. Well, people who got what are they called? Balanced Furies, they know. But yeah,
It's like it's really like they put a lot of work into the character designs, the map designs. Obviously, like the little insanity meter thing is kind of really annoying. You only get like 3 cleanses a day or something. But outside of that fact, like it was non KMS content that was good up until it wasn't good. People stopped doing it because they realized that the items weren't BIS; they were dog shit. 5% crit rate. Who the fuck cares about that? And so they try to supplement the fact that I remember someone did the math. It was going to take 10 years or something to be able to
for the
22
Glowiness
star.
Heart on average.
Yeah, the Glowiness Heart.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, okay, we're going to up the amount of coins you get, and it shrunk to like 3 years or something, or 5. I don't even remember, but it's still 3 years in order to get a 22 star Glowna, right? And they were like, oh yeah, we're going to start providing Phantom Forest coins and Sunny Sunday perks, so that people that participate are going to have an easier time getting Glowna or any of the other items 22 star, right? When was the last time we saw Phantom Forest coins in a Sunny Sunday? Never. we like probably like more than 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, that's
like,
actually funny.
they stopped doing that. They realized the content's fucking dead. It's sad.
Yeah,
it's really sad. People only do it for Balanced Furies, like you said. It's pretty sad.
Irrelevant. You get your Balanced Furies, you never look back. That's it.
The 1 week we had, because we didn't know about the set effect until they changed it, because we were on some high ass coping thinking that the item in Pet Ignore wasn't the same as what you would get from when you actually bought it. So when the first people that bought the Glowna's ring and they saw the set effect, they're like, oh yep, this item's dog shit. For that 1 week it was really fun though. We had people trying to spawn the E-boss on different channels.
Oh yeah.
I remember, I don't remember what his name, but the guy who originally was like the owner of Reboot Central, he made like the he made like the Phantom Forest guide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a visual map guide. I think that was like really well put. Like I put a lot of effort into that, and I used it. It was good. It was good information to have. And it's all it's just dead now. It's all gone. The only reason you would ever do Phantom Forest today is if you wanted to farm honor points. That's it.
Yeah.
Phantom Forest is the most efficient way to farm honor. I think you can get like 5 E-boss boxes from Phantom Forest, and then each of them has a really high chance of giving you honor.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 10k honor or something, or 1k. I don't remember.
Yeah, honors, Balanced Fury, and anvils. That's it.
Yep. So this isn't the first time where Nexon introduced non-KMS content and then dropped the ball on how to make it relevant. In fact, it was relevant and then they killed it. Right? It's just so sad.
How do you feel about this? So, do you think that part of the reason why Nexon isn't thinking about any of these things is because they're playing a lot of catch up? Because I feel like there was a big paradigm shift from when the compensation hit and all of the moves Nexon has been doing after that. They've been primarily focusing all of their resources on quality of life, because now they realize from the compensation they had a big ass fire under their ass that they gotta make the game playable pretty much, and that's all they've been doing the last year and a half, 2 years. That's literally all they've been doing. It's just fixing things like boss reward rooms and HP bars. So I feel like that's part of the reason why they don't all these resources, all these things we complain about or criticize. It's they're just not paying attention to, because I feel like there's only so much they could do at one point.
For sure, we're definitely in the period where Nexon is only focused on the player experience, which is why we're not seeing too much new content. Right, Odium is the newest level, and they're trying to push the average player to be able to get to grandness now, because they released the hyper burning. It goes up to 250. Mm-hmm. Right? They're trying to make 250 what 200 is right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's basically it.
You just speed run through the Arcane River. That's it. Arcane River is old content.
Mm-hmm. Which is funny because you're still going to be boss droplicated.
Yeah. it's just like a whole other argument. Not even like a whole other thing to complain about and criticize
Mm-hmm.
and fix, like the whole boss droplets and time gates and all this shit. It's like
Yep.
a whole other thing.
It's
I don't want to
speaking of like,
delve into that.
making the game playable. There's like they should be touching nodes soon. There's just no way.
They should. Dude, nodes is like such a big thing. So I alluded to this earlier when I was saying that they made all the other systems in the game easier except for nodes. Like nodes is the one thing that is objectively pre-Kishin. The people who kind of farmed a lot have so many more nodes, and they are just infinitely in a better position to make boss mules and do whatever they want just because they had infinite nodes. Like when I made my boss mules, all of them have max nodes. Nowadays, people who make boss mules, none of them have max nodes. They just can't. Like nodes are too hard to get. Like if you're farming off totem, your kill rate is lower, so you're not gonna make as many nodes per hour. If you're there's only so many totems you could use. Events don't give that many nodes. Like this event shop only has 50 nodes in it. What's 50 nodes? It's nothing. That's literally like piss nothing. And the fact that you could buy droplets, where droplets are so much more rare than nodes. You could get like 2 droplets in an hour versus like 25 nodes in an hour. And it's like you can't even buy nodes, like really? Like even if nodes were expensive, right? Because you can make the argument that nodes are a system that increases your damage a ton for the value. Like for example, let's say 1000 nodes costed like 15 bill mesos to get. Like and like that sounds like a lot, but if you really think about, if you were to spend 15 bill mesos on any other aspect of your gear, star forcing, flames, cubes, you're gonna get more final damage out of the nodes, out of 1000 nodes than 15 bill on your gear. Like it's still worth it, and that's high. Like I feel like 15 bill is a lot for 1000 nodes, where I think it should be like 3 mil per node, for example, and then
Mm-hmm.
it would be like 3 bill for 1000 nodes, but like they could price it pretty much however they want. Just give us the option to buy nodes. Like there's no reason not to. Like the fact that people have to play, they have to play a class that mobs well, so they could have high kill rate. They have to make a lot of drop gear, which is very expensive, so that they could get a lot of nodes per hour. And the meta promotes boss mules, which require nodes, so you have to like farm even more to get those nodes on your boss mules. Like it's crazy how big of a gate nodes are for people. And the end
Mm-hmm.
gamers like talk about legacy items like badge, lab blocks, totems, compensation. Like talk about legacy nodes. Like that's a big one too. That these players have like 30k nodes just in their inventory, like just chilling. Like they could do whatever the hell they want. Where new players, they just can't. Like they literally just can't do that.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I'm sitting on like 20k nodes right now still.
Yep.
And
Literally.
I like decked out like 2 new boss mules recently, so
You could deck out like 10 more. I'm not even
yeah,
joking.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, so the next and the final topic to talk about for this podcast is 40 channels, right?
Mhm.
That is something that they did recently, and I've used 40 channels so far. Actually, like I was trying to do one totem a day as a shadower recently. I was training in Grandis, and like CCing and training in 20 plus channels all the way to the 40. It was fine,
Mhm.
pretty much fine. Like I didn't really notice. Obviously, there was some hiccups, but if we were to compare the server stability now to what it was a year or 2 years ago, it's better now.
Mhm.
They went through all like the like because I remember like there was a memo every day almost where they were saying they're going to be trying out different hardware for the Amazon web server, or they're going to try different wiring or like
Yep.
whatever, some kind of setup. But it ended up mattering and it ended up working,
No, it
right?
worked. No, there's no like fast channels and shit channels. It's all just pretty good. Every channel doesn't matter.
There's some channels that are better than others, but on average, it's better.
Yeah,
Overall,
yeah,
on
yeah.
average, it's been better, right?
Mhm.
Of course, not too long ago we had like some DDoS attacks, but outside of that, overall it's a lot better. It's definitely better.
Mhm.
And like, if you guys remember, like back in the day with 24-hour EXP events, that was hell. Just 2x events were held. It was unplayable. Like I think Rexer recently
Yeah.
had 2x, right? I think their servers were just fine. I think the only issue with the 2x was that they couldn't use it with coupon. That was like the only issue. But outside of that, despite the fact that they have a smaller player base compared to Reboot, usually like if Reboot's having issues or Reg servers having issues, like both servers would be feeling it that day. I think with 40 channels, the game feels like it's being played properly now. Because now with 40 channels, you're going to have a lot more maps with 100% burning or just burning in general. And the thing that people don't understand is that burning exists for a reason. Burning exists so that the unpopular maps are still usable. You get that perk that you have 2 times EXP while you're training there, right? If you're choosing a low-key map and you come up with a rotation that's good enough for you, well, whatever it is you're doing in that map, you're getting 2 times the XP per mob kill. And usually the 100% burning maps are just going to be better than the maps that have 0% burning.
Yep.
Like I don't think there's that many maps where a 0% burning map is that much more efficient than 100% burning.
I can't think of any, honestly. Like maybe like OS2, right? Because OS2 is just broken as hell. But if you really think about it, like just think of Lab. Pretty much the entirety of Lab is like not utilized. And those maps, a lot of them are actually good. And they have 100% burning. But people are just so fixated on like Rev 3, CLP,
Side path,
spiders, red spiders, side path, D-Cup 1, VC3 into 2.5/1.4. Like that's it. There's no other maps exist. It's like it's dumb as hell. Like I don't get it.
Yeah, like people they're too scared to do the wrong thing, right?
Yeah. It's not even the wrong thing. They're too scared to just. They're too scared to like try something new. Like that's all it is. Like they're too scared to feel like they're wasting their time when they're really not. Too scared to experiment. Yeah.
The Battle Nest feature is so good, right? It counts the amount of mobs you're killing. It shows you your XP gain. It shows you your meso. You end it whenever. Like the most popular method is just ending it after 6 minutes because it gives you a projection of an hour, right? Like people don't realize that, the BA tool is so useful for you to figure out if a map is good for you or not, or if the rotation you're doing is good enough. Like the thing is that you can be efficient all you want. But let's just say you're training with 100% efficiency, but you can only do that for 2 hours. Whereas if you just picked another map and you're doing a rotation that's a lot more comfortable, you end up doing 4 hours. More than likely, the 4 hours is going to be better than the 2 hours. Now, I'm not saying that everyone has 4 hours to play the game, but maybe people have 2 hours to play the game, and that's why they're efficient over it, but you're just going to burn yourself out really quick. Right? You got to find a rotation that is easy to do, or you just got to be comfortable with the fact that there's pros and cons to the way you're farming. Right? Or just farming in general. You have to find the rotation that fits your needs. If your needs are the best rates possible, then you're gonna change up the way you farm. But if your needs is the most comfortable as possible, and you're gonna be as comfortable as possible and try to get as much mesos as you can at the same time. That's like the perfect balance. You're no longer like too stressed about the fact that you're not being efficient and you're enjoying your time. And more than anything, everyone that plays Maplestory, they have a second monitor looking at something else. Right? It's either us you're looking at, or you're watching Netflix, or you're watching some other Twitch stream or some other YouTube series. Like, I don't know anyone who's literally sitting in front of their monitor and only looking at Maplestory while they're
Suko. But yeah.
Okay, Suko's he's a machine, I guess, dude. But you know what I mean. Even back when the conference, right, the compensation flame thing, when they had like the top Maplestory players show up to conference, people like there was one person that said like it's no mystery that Maplestory is a game you play while doing something else. Maplestory itself is not entertaining. People have to supplement Maplestory by watching something on the side.
Yep.
Right. And then Wonky's response to that was, we'll try to include more interactive things in the map while you're training, right? Blah blah blah
What
blah this, blah
like
blah that.
Lamina hitting you every 5 minutes, taking you down to
Yeah,
half HP,
very
shit
interactive,
like
right?
that. Yeah, where you have to
Um,
look and be like, oh shit, I'm about to die.
but
Yeah.
essentially, when the person that brought up that topic was able to give a counter response, they were saying like, no, please don't do that. Don't make training more interactive. Please just give us an alternative than just grinding on the same map, right?
Yeah.
So alternatives were given after that. Monster Park XP got better. Daily Arcane hand-ins were better.
Mhm. Oh yeah,
Now
that's
we're
big actually.
yeah we're getting XP now from Granis dailies soon too. Like KMS
Mhm.
like got that recently. Unfortunately, by the time we get it, we're gonna be maxed out on our symbol already. I think on one of the symbols.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Absolute
Extreme
dumb as
Monster
hell.
Park is new. That's another thing. Um, they also added a new portal, a new special portal that spawns
Oh
after every
yeah.
5 or something or 4,
Yeah, like a
and that one's
super wolf or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be like, I don't know, I don't remember what the efficiency is, but it's a lot better now.
They also buffed up what's it called? They buffed up they doubled the amount of EXP you get for every single quest below 200 as well.
Oh, what the heck?
You don't know that? Yeah, they did
No,
that.
I did not know that.
So
Yo,
doing
that
Legion doing
scrapyard
Legion
EXP.
Yeah, no, it's a whole level now. Like once you're 199, you're done.
Mm, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, so another thing with the whole 40 channels thing and burning is and going to experiment. So a lot of the game, like a lot of the grinding is off totem now. Like once you're out of totems, you just grind off totem, and it's perfectly fine to grind off totem, which further promotes you to go experiment maps for you because you're just off totem. Like you don't have anything like on the line. Because it's like I get it with a totem, it's like you do want to be as optimal as possible. Like it makes sense because you want to make the most out of your totem. But like people should go experiment off totem maps. Like a lot of these off totem maps are super good. Like they're not even that much worse than on totem.
Mm-hmm. And like not everyone is like going to have that privilege to to farm off totem, right?
Yeah,
If we're assuming that people were able to buy out 15 totems and that they're still willing to play the game after those totems are gone, then what we're trying to say is 40 channels is a perk for you now. You
yeah,
now have more 100% burning to use.
yeah,
And it's funny because I remember, maybe like 2 hours ago into this podcast, someone was saying that, oh, like Maplestory feels simple or basic because the game is solved now. If it's solved, why are there still people using the same maps and not realizing there's other maps out there that are just as good, if not maybe even better, because 100% burning, right?
yeah,
People, they're too scared to experiment when, like you said earlier, there's not really much that's on the line if you're off totem,
mhm,
right? All you're doing when you're trying out a new map is just open up your BA, let it go for 6 minutes while you're doing your rotation, end it. Now you have an idea of what an hour would look like if you were to train, right?
mhm,
And we're talking like simple terms. We're saying what 1 hour would look like, but you don't have to do an hour. You can do 30 minutes. You can do 20 minutes. You can do 10 minutes, right? You can just train only when you have when you're off rune cooldown if you really want,
yeah,
right? But the main ideal is that with these battle analysis that you do for 6 minutes, it gives you a projection of what 1 hour would look like.
yeah. I mean that's another thing with off totem. Like I'm trying to promote off totem here because you know this kind of sucks. The game is like kind of designed with these 2 hour blocks, especially with wealth potion and
Mm-hmm.
like um totem being 2 hours long. You can't like cancel it or like save it for later. You have to like kind of sit there for 2 hours. Um, that's another beauty of off totem is like you could just start and stop whenever you want. Like it fits into like pretty much any schedule because you could just do it and then stop. They have the small EXP pots too from bosses that just last 30 minutes and then you're good. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those were a nice addition. I have never I have never used them yet because usually when I pop a wealth pot or if I'm planning to train, it's usually on a totem.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm popping a wealth pot anyways. But I've been accumulating the small ones just in case I ever find myself in a situation where I just only feel like doing 30 minutes and off totem.
Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to mention? I feel like we talked about everything.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much thoroughly talked about all the topics for today,
Mm-hmm.
and even gone like diverged into other ones.
Oh yeah. I mean that's inevitable, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. All
I
right.
guess we should leave it a little bit just for like if anybody has questions.
Oh yeah,
Um,
for sure.
yeah. So just before like we open up, I guess the floor to questions. Um, just a few things like I didn't mention at the start, and there's way more people here now than at the start. So just to reiterate, like this is a podcast primarily for fun, just to talk about like whatever relevant things that are going on in Maple, just to maybe like um you know share some different perspectives on things, or maybe like give you guys something to listen to or whatnot. And then also the other thing is the frequency of the podcast we haven't mentioned. um this isn't something that's going to be like every weekend or something. This is basically just going to happen whenever we kind of feel like a podcast is relevant enough to happen. Like now is a good point because there's a lot of like different changes, like Kishin Removal and KMST Patch with like different bossing meta and whatnot. Um, it was like a pretty decent time to do it now, but this isn't something that's like weekly or whatever. It's just whenever we kind of feel like it. And also there will be this will be uploaded on YouTube as well. So you guys, like if you're new, if you came now and you missed most of it, like you could still watch the whole thing. So there's that as well.
Yep. All right. I guess we can. Now we could open the floor for any questions.
Yeah, if anyone has questions, like we'll be chilling here for a bit. You can ask whatever you want. Um, also, so this is something that I just made in my Discord. If you want to join the Discord, here's the link. I created a channel at the top of the channel called Podcast Feedback. If you want to just give any sort of constructive criticism or anything that could be better about the podcast, just feel free to write it down. How do you feel about the need for Oz rings? We already talked about that, kinda. Savage's guild leader. As Savage's guild leader, can we make a super alliance of Elite, Excel, and Savages? I think there might be a little some loose ends we need to tie up before we do that. What's the worst class right now? Why is it Kana? Yeah, because Kana's fucking shit, honestly. They deserve to be nerfed. Yup. I'm that guy.
I think the whole Kana situation is. I think what went overboard was when they didn't have the Tengu cancel tech.
Dude, no, honestly, it's just dumb as hell. Like, it's Tengu cancel tech, and the fact that they nerf Shikigami. Like, the reason why Shikigami is good is because it's 5%. Like, that's the point. Like, they need to just update Shikigami to not be so like old. Like, they need to update the scaling on it. Like, make it higher percent. Like, they could keep it at 2%, but make it higher percent. Not like it skills like a first job skill. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk about Kana. Honestly, they've cried enough. They've gotten so much attention. I don't give a fuck, bro. I don't give a fuck. I'm not talking about this anymore.
I'll say a few things. I'll say a few things. So I think the nerfs were whatever, or I'm saying whatever, but I think what I would be because I'm putting my shoes in the putting my shoes if I were a Kana main. I think the biggest thing I would have been bummed out of is Tengu cancel not being a thing. Because they only recently got that back again, right? Because it was apparently bugged and not intended for them to not have it. They have it again. Because that's not so much about you're doing less damage. That's an aspect of the class that is gone, right? So for an example would be Dual Blade. Final Cut used to move you if there was a mob in front of you. Now it just doesn't move you at all, right? And the reason why they made that change is because the idiots that played Dual Blade would Final Cut out of their Roar 4 and cry because they didn't know how to use their Final Cut properly or made that mistake way too often. But that's how I feel about it. I'm glad Kana's got their Tengu cancel back because now they can optimize damage. Like, I was seeing people talking about like boss summon spam canceling with Tengu or something, or there's still the what's it called, the Exo Weave. That's kind of nuts. But outside of that, I think Kana, despite the fact that it has no IED sources, no crit sources, or really low crit sources, it's still a really strong class, but for different reasons. You still have domain, you still have boss barriers, you still have the 15-second bind, you still have infinite sustain. It's not the end of the world if you're a Kana main. Honestly, if you quit the game because of it, then that's a perk. You're free.
True.
You're free from the game.
Quit. It's a good thing. Honestly, if you really think about it, playing this game is an L. Like you should do something else. Not gonna
we're
lie.
so down bad we made a podcast.
Yeah, that's how desperate and bored we are. Not gonna lie.
I know. It is what it is. Someone's asking who's Sonto, so I'm.
Oh yeah,
I'm Sonto on YouTube. Yeah, I'm Sonto on YouTube. My Twitch handle is Stummy. In game, I'm Tummy, and you can call me whatever alias you want: Sonto, Tummy, Stummy, or Jay. I'm okay with all those names.
Tummy Tech.
No. No Tummy Tech. No Tummy Tech.
My stummy hurt.
Honestly, that's why I made the. I was surprised Stummy was a, what's it called? Was a Twitch name I could take.
Tamusi.
No. Move on. Let it go.
What would
Sonto want to join my guild? Sorry, I'm an elite.
What would, in your opinion, be the best time between KMS patches and GMS getting the same thing? Like 1 to 2 months or 1 to 2 weeks? No, I think having 1 to 2 months is fine. 6 months is just so long though. Like it's so long. 1 to 2 months is fine though. 1 to 2 weeks is hella soon because I don't expect the turnaround time that fast, to be honest with you. Like that's just like unrealistic.
Yeah, if we're being realistic, I think 1 to 2 months is doable if Nexon was willing to give those resources for it to happen. I think if it was 1 to 2 weeks, it wouldn't make sense. It would only make sense if we got content within 1 to 2 weeks if our game was literally 1-to-1 with KMS. Like no non-KMS content. That's the only way it would work.
Mm-hmm. Where it's just translation. But there's other things that matter. Yeah.
But since we have non-KMS content, and we don't have a test server, I feel like 1 to 2 months would actually be feasible, assuming Nexon would be willing to give the resources for that.
Mm-hmm. Thoughts on the GMS reboot boycott? There's a reboot boycott going on? Huh?
I remember hearing an up.
Bro, it's just a bunch of dumbass Redditors thinking they're gonna do something. Shut up.
Okay, let me clarify. That's what he thinks.
No,
I didn't say that.
Yes. My opinions are my opinions. His are his. It's as simple as that. Okay, so. Dude, boycott. What's a boycott gonna do, man? They need to think rationally. That's not how you get change. Boycott is not how you get change. This isn't like Macy's is being racist and you boycott Macy's, I'm never buying their clothes again. It's not that. If you want change on Maple, you go to the forums, you create petitions and you actively speak about it. It's not boycott. Boycott is not how it works. Sorry.
See, the way to get change in GMS is that one of you guys in chat, I know one of you fuckers are sexy as fuck. One of you guys is really good looking. What we need you to do is marry the CEO's daughter of Nexon.
I'm looking at Alan, to be honest with you, Mr.
If you can do that, you can save Maplestory. You can save GMS if you can marry the CEO's daughter. That's all I'm saying.
Actually true.
No father can say no to their daughter.
What do you mean on it? Shut up. It said on it. We need jump. True. True. We need jump. We need jump.
No, dude.
True.
I thought we were gonna make it through this podcast without saying jump once. But we didn't.
We need jump. He's the savior. Bro, if you really think about it, ever since he got canceled, the game's kind of gone to shit.
What?
No, I'm kidding.
What?
It's only gotten better. Who's the best MS player and why is it Jump? It's not. He's like the worst player on this game. Like objectively.
All right. What are the questions you guys have? Come on. You guys are having too much fun with this, which isn't the worst, but I'm sure you guys have questions. Oh yeah, sorry, Moondoggy saw that. Do you think they will shrink the channel back down to 30 after the player base dies down? See, that's funny. That's funny. Because we thought they would do that. Someone said the same thing when we had 30 channels. And they were like, do you think they'll shrink it back down to 20 when the player base dies down? Player base didn't die down. Right? Mm-hmm. I think more than likely we'll probably have 40 channels for a long time. Mainly because in KMS, right? They have been doing like CPR for the game the entire time. Like they've been trying to revive the game. They've been doing all the quality life changes that should have been in the game years ago, right? And there hasn't really been new content, and we know that they don't have time to do new content at the moment. Like they squeezed out whatever they could with Odium. Speaking of Odium, the background music for Odium is kind of pretty sick. I don't know if you guys have heard that yet. It's kind of legit. It is.
I'm gonna play it a bit.
But anyways, it's they're like in damage control mode, trying to make the game as playable as possible, as Hamza said earlier, and like their main focus is just quality of life. And we know that they're not making too much new content because they recycled Black Mage, they recycled Saren, like they kind of tweaked the mechanics in that boss a little bit, but all they really did was make things hit you harder.
Yep.
That's it.
All right, I think one more question. And then we'll call it wraps. You can pick the last one.
I can pick the last one? Okay.
Yep, you can pick the last question.
I'm gonna pick a good one, though.
Okay.
Let me scroll up. Maybe there's some that I missed.
It's okay. I'm filtering out the bad questions for you. By deleting them.
Okay. Okay, what would you change to improve Star Force? If I was able to choose one thing about Star Force, remove booming. That's the one change I would make.
Really?
Yeah.
Remove booming? What about change booming from 12 to 15? You get to trace.
Wait, what do you mean?
What about changing the trace instead of being at 12? It starts at 15.
Oh, I mean that's honestly that doesn't really change anything. I think I would rather have no boom than to have it the trace start at 15. Because if they did do something like that, then the dynamic of the cost to enhance would be different. It's no longer just meso, because the exchange is having copies of the item and meso, right?
Yeah, but
now that you remove
booming is like nothing is difficult. Nothing like all you need is one item, and then you just chuck mesas on it and you're done. Like that's it. Like everybody's gonna have full pitch bars. Everybody gets. There's no point in getting spares for anything. You just get it once, you're done. Like the game is just like infinitely easier. I feel like it's too OP if they move booming. Like it's just like way too easy.
All right, fine. Because I played too much Lost Ark that I don't want no booms. All right, but I don't know. It's just that obviously no booming is not the perfect solution, right? There's the game has been designed around the fact that items do boom. Like some people are saying, people are mentioning Mike server. we know reg server exists in the game, but we're just reboot heads, and we basically only know about reboot. Even though we used to play reg server, it's like it's just a whole different jungle now. But booming and reboot just fucking sucks. Even though we have booms right now, it sucks when you have multiple copies of an item you don't even need anymore. What do you even do with it?
Yeah.
So the fact that you're saying that, oh, you would only need one copy of something, like, okay, then if we have booms right now, having multiple copies of something, even when you're done with the item, still feels bad.
Yeah, but you still like. Yeah, of course. Like, you're never gonna be 100% optimized. I'm never gonna have like specifically 22 Golux belts because that's how many I'm gonna need to hit 22. Like, no, you're always gonna have extra, but I feel like having extra is better than only ever needing one. Because once you only get one, that's it. Like the thrill is gone. Like you wouldn't need to run H Daemon anymore. You wouldn't need to run anything anymore because once you get it once, you're good. Like the game's just over. You beat the game. It's just Meso. Like you run a boss until you get the item. And it would also promote like people just carrying each other for pitch boss. Like you just get it once and you're done. Like somebody who has like 6 set, they could just carry anybody who they want. Like until they get their item and then they're done forever. And then everybody's walking around with like pitch boss. Like, I think it's
people
good.
already are.
True.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, like you with your 3 set.
I've been 3 set forever, man.
Yeah, well I've been 0 set forever, so yup.
It is what it is. I mean, I didn't think too much about my answer, but that goes to show how much I hate booming. Okay, I don't like booming.
No, booming is part of the game. It makes it like the risk. It makes it fun, in my opinion. I think it's worth it. It's annoying, but like you need to have that risk. Like if there's no risk, there's no point.
You just like gambling, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, maybe I'm just an addict. Yeah, the adrenaline. Yeah, that adrenaline you get from 20 plus, right? That would be completely gone. That's like one of the most fun part of Star Forcing when you're 20 plus. You're like, oh my god, like please. And now it's just like, it's just Meso Gate. That's all it is. 20 to 22 is peak. 20 to 22 stars is peak Maple. True. That's when boys become men. 20 to 22.
All right, that was the last question.
Yeah, that's the last question. Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. Again, this is gonna be on YouTube. I appreciate everybody watching, even if you tuned in a little bit. Hopefully we could get more of these going. We could get some guests in the future on like relevant topics. I'm not just gonna bring on any dumbass for any topic. Like it's gonna have to be somebody relevant to the topic. But yeah. Thanks everybody for watching. I'm gonna go live personally at tomorrow, so if you're interested in anything I do. Jay, you want to plug anything that you have so they could check you out? Because a lot of people are dick riding you this whole stream and they hate me. So.
Dude, they're just too tired of seeing your face, man.
I mean,
they're just too tired of seeing your face.
I guess so.
My YouTube is Sonto. My Twitch is Stummy. You guys can follow me there, find me there if you want. I don't really have Twitter or anything, or not for like a social media account for that, but I'm just like a for fun content creator. I'm not really making content to look to pursue or anything. I just kind of make videos for fun. I stream every now and then just for fun too. If you guys ever show up, that's cool too. And this podcast was really fun. Thank you guys for joining us on this journey. Hopefully we will do more. As Hamza said, we will definitely look to have guests in the future, but it has to make sense, right?
Yeah.
It just has to make sense.
Yeah. No, it was fun. Thanks for doing this, and I look forward to like more of them in the future. So.
Yep.
You might see Tummy, dude. He's in my chat all the time. So if you ever see him around, like say hi. I don't know if you guys really want him, like. He could pull up on random ass discussions. Like for example, I do like tier list videos with Phil or something. If you're ever down, like you could just hop in the VC and give your 2 cents as well. Like I don't know, it's up to you.
Sure.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So, Dookie was a great guest. Shut up.
Huh. People don't know, but this whole overlay, it's something I worked on now.
Yeah, Mr. Tommy Tech is the one who did it.
The
I just
Tommy
implemented
Tech.
it. Yeah.
Dude, we were struggling so hard at trying to figure out like a
Oh, yeah.
podcast name for this.
Oh yeah, what do you guys
Like-
think of the podcast name? Hidden Potential.
We wanted to keep it like Maple related.
Yeah. Dude, it took us a while to figure this out. I'm not gonna lie.
Like we we had like we
It's
wanted to do
gonna
it.
be rare what?
We wanted to do Hidden Street, but we were like, man,
No,
those
we can't.
fuckers at hiddenstreet.net were too smart.
Yeah.
Like Hidden Street would have been a sick podcast name, but we can't. We don't really want to have confusion with association. Some other options we had was like T7 Hands.
Oh
But
my god,
how-
it's so cringe looking back.
I
So
also thought it
cringe.
was too mean or like too yeah, maybe a little too cringe, a little too cringe.
Yeah. T7 hands.
Or there's mesos per minute too.
Dude, there was like mad edgy shit too. It was like bloody Katara or something. Like it's like blades. Something like that. It was just like mad edgy. Like
Yeah, but
CL
We-
podcast. That's actually really good. CL podcast.
we are in Arcana in the background.
True.
It would work.
Guys, want to see something cool? Spoiler for next podcast. I could change the background live. Look at this.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
I can change my background too.
Yep.
Where's that? Oh, I popped my Final Cut, guys. I got my 40% FD buff right now.
Yep, he did.
Thank you guys for watching.
He iframed. Yeah, he's iframed right now. Oh,
We-
if you
we
really
outta
want,
here.
yeah, if you really want to see him iframe, this guy can iframe. I'm not gonna lie.
and end the stream, Hammy. It's done. We're
All
good.
right. Thank you guys for watching. Follow for more, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Look forward to this being uploaded as well.
Bye.
See ya.